want you to do for me?
What?
Come here.
What?
Win.
What are we waiting for? Take this! Fakes and Embiid down the lane. Backing in against Irving. 5 to shoot. Lost the ball. Picks it back up. Jump shot. It's good. Butler drills it with 4.7 remaining. And the Sixers go up by 5. Center field. This ball is out of here. Man stares with a 2-run pitch hit home plate. Backing in. Nice fake off to a ball by Embiid. Wow. Needs to reach a Kobe Bryant. With a left-handed sledgehammer. Gets it away. It's a knuckler. Jackson takes it at the 35. Picks it up. Looks for running room. He's at the 40. He's at the 45. Puts up a three. Won't go. Rebound Bosh. Back out to Allen. His three-pointer. Bang! Tie game with 5 seconds remaining.
Welcome back to episode 5 of Scoring with Santiago and Jones here on this gloomy Saturday. I thought today was going to be a nice day, but looking to the forecast and it seems to be a little rainy today, a little chilly. Went to the dog park today, got some breakfast with my friend Eli, who's home from the Navy. How's your Saturday so far, Kayla?
Pretty good. Just did some homework this morning, and it's weird because I think the Apple weather is always lying to us. All week it said Saturday was going to be beautiful. Like, my mom was literally going to go down the shore this weekend and try and go to the beach, but it turned into a very gloomy, humid day. So the weather is always unpredictable here, though. I never know what to wear. I always have to look at the humidity because it can say 70, but then it feels like 90 degrees.
I think that's just that Jersey weather, as in, like, you get one thing, but then you can expect another. I remember growing up, we'd be like, oh, yay, snow, 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 and then it would just rain all day. Or it'd be like, oh, today's going to be nice and cool. We could go down to the beach, and then it's nice and humid and nasty out, and you're getting all sweaty and sticky. Sweaty and sticky, that's what we can start with, because that's how the Eagles are feeling, because they've lost 2 games. They lost to the Washington football team, and now they lost to the Los Angeles Rams 37-19, as Carson Wentz continues to struggle, and the defense was looking all over the place trying to make a stop, and Sean McVay and the Rams were just honestly a bowling ball and going right through them for a strike.
I was actually more surprised with the Rams in this game than I was the Eagles, just because I think we both predicted the Eagles to not win this Sunday, but at the same time, I didn't think the Rams were going to be this good. They lost a lot of key pieces. Jared Goff kind of regressed last year, but he showed everybody that he may be the better quarterback coming out of that draft, at least in that game, at least in that matchup, because Carson Wentz does not look good. I think a lot of people are holding on to the 2017 MVP season he had, but this is 2020. This is 3 years later. He's got to figure it out. Now, he doesn't have a lot of help, so you can't put it all on him. I wasn't a fan of the play calling either. We saw Jalen Hurts get in for a decoy a few times, which was interesting to see. I would have liked to see the Eagles use him in a little bit of a different way, maybe be more involved with the play than just standing there as a decoy. But it's really a shame just how the Eagles are looking. I'm really nervous for this Sunday, too. I don't know what I can expect. I don't expect them to win, but they look terrible. I mean, every single Philadelphia team this year is just awful, besides the Flyers.
Yeah, the Flyers look to be the best team in the city of Philadelphia. Meanwhile, everyone else just wants to play, honestly, horrible. You look around and see other teams in the NFL, and honestly, I blame the Eagles for mainly one thing, and that's how they draft. I look at these other teams, such as Pittsburgh, such as New England. They get these late-round picks, and they can always make an impact. I'm not saying that you need to go out there and be a Hall of Fame talent or even a guy that's going to possibly be an All-Pro one day, but can we get someone that can just go out there and make a difference for the team? I'm not seeing that left or right. I see J.J. Arcega-Whiteside once again. He's becoming one of those players that you wish would never even around the Philadelphia Eagles. I see a guy like DK Metcalf. I know we talk about him all the time, but I was listening to the radio yesterday, and the concern about DK Metcalf that the Philadelphia Eagles had was that he was too big. How are you too big? The man, I understand, is 6'4". He had a little bit of injury history at Ole Miss. But if you look at him and Russell Wilson, the way that the Seahawks are using him, he is absolutely playing bully ball. On one of the touchdowns Sunday night against Stephen Gilmore, he catches the ball and literally shakes Gilmore off of him. And Gilmore's not no slouch. He's an all-pro corner. He's probably the best corner overall in the game. And then if you look at the Madden score, if you're much of a video game player, he's a 99. So don't get me wrong. He's no slouch, and DK Metcalf is just trucking him right off him for a touchdown. Meanwhile, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside can't even run a 5-yard out without possibly falling down, or if he does get the ball thrown to him, he's not going to catch it.
And DK Metcalf doesn't look too big for the Seattle Seahawks at all. He is absolutely balling out there. And I think Howie Roseman, for some reason, thought that Carson Wentz and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside were the new Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf, because how he drafts is absolutely awful. I'm going to tie this in a little bit to this week. Now, we're going to talk about injuries in a little bit around the NFL, but Jalen Reagor is now out for 6 weeks. Alshon Jeffrey is not ready yet. So you're telling me your number one receiver, granted, is Deshaun Jackson, but he's not 100% either. So your number one healthy wide receiver is Greg Ward. You're going to tell me that Howie Roseman in the second round picked up a quarterback in Jalen Hurts instead of giving his quote-unquote franchise quarterback, by the way, who you just gave a humongous deal to, no help. Carson has no help. I'm not giving this as an excuse. I think Carson has played absolutely horrible, but you're right. The drafting is just terrible. The only draft that was decent was when they got Andre Dillard and Miles Sanders. That was one that I will give him a good grade on, maybe like a B+. But it's just really sad to see all the players that the Philadelphia Eagles have missed out on. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, they constantly said in training camp, he's looking good. This is going to be his year. He had a bad rookie season. Carson throws him a 5-yard pass, and he can't catch the ball. It literally goes through his hands. I didn't realize we drafted another Nelson Aguilar.
No, I can't even say J.J. Arcega-Whiteside's a Nelson Aguilar, because at least Aguilar had that one good year, which was the Super Bowl year, where he was catching footballs and making plays that actually made a difference, where Arcega-Whiteside has made no difference to this team whatsoever, besides taking up a roster spot and taking money from the Eagles. Now, we were talking about DK Metcalf and how he's big and too strong. He reminds me of a Terrell Owens, but he's bigger than T.O. He can legit run. He can take a slant, run you over, go to the house. He can go deep and burn you. He can do anything that any other wideout in the game can do, but no, the Eagles went and did Arcega-Whiteside. Now, we are talking about Carson Wentz, and it's clear that he has regressed a bit. Last year, you were talking about we were holding on to like the Super Bowl year, and basically his MVP year if he's not hurt. And then he has the following year where he's coming back off the knee and everything. He did turn it on. You have to give him credit. He did turn it up last 4 games of the season to make the playoffs and then push them, hopefully against a win against the Seattle Seahawks if he doesn't get a cheap shot from Jadeveon Clowney. So I'm not saying that Wentz is the worst quarterback of all time right now or the worst quarterback the Eagles have ever had, but you can clearly see from the play calling, from the defense, and clearly from Wentz that he is not the same player right now. He's only got 2 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. He's only had 2 yards rushing, which is kind of honestly astonishing to me, because it's not that I expect him to be Michael Vick or Lamar Jackson, but he does like to get outside the pocket and run a little bit, at least get outside the pocket with some waggles and some bootlegs and everything, or even if it's just him extending the plays. He has not been able to do that. He's 29th in completion percentage with 58.8%, and he's 32nd in yards per attempt with only 6. I understand that's because he doesn't have the weapons right now, but you do have some guys that you can get the ball to that can make a play. You have Miles Sanders, who you can do screens. You have Boston Scott, who can do screens. You have Dallas Goedert, who is probably going to be our starting tight end future, because possibly after this year, Zach Ertz may or may not be here because the team has to make money moves because they're so tight against the cap and they're also getting older. But you still have Zach Ertz. You have Deshaun Jackson. They barely went deep last game. I don't understand why are you bringing back Deshaun Jackson last year to go deep, and you were preaching speed all offseason. Granted, you did say we believe in Jalen Reagor to do it, but now Jalen Reagor's hurt, so he's not going to be doing anything to you right now. You have Greg Ward. I have barely seen Greg Ward. I'm a big Greg Ward fan because of what he did last season. He came in on limited snaps, and he made a way more impact than Arcega-Whiteside has done. Once again, we're bringing up the bum and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. And then, excuse me, you also have Corey Clement, who has not been the Corey Clement from the Super Bowl year, but I still believe if you give him enough touches, he can do what he has done before. Now, he has been sacked 8 times, Carson Wentz has been, but he was not sacked last week against the Rams. And the Rams have an all-pro in Aaron Donald, and they also have a great defensive end in Michael Brockers. According to Dan Orlovsky, it's his mechanics. I do see it. I have seen a lot of balls that he has thrown high. The one interception against the Rams, he was throwing to J.J. Arcega-Whiteside of all people. And it's clear that he just did not expect the corner to make the play. I think Wentz is like a Brett Favre in some aspects where he believes he can sling the ball wherever he wants. But overall, Wentz is just pressing to make the big plays, and they are resulting in turnovers. From the interception against the Rams to the interception that he threw to Hightower in Week 1. It looks like he's pressing instead of letting the game get to him. I think he's trying to be a Mahomes or a Lamar Jackson where he thinks he can make every throw, he can do everything that he can, or even a Russell Wilson who has a free roam. And it's clear that right now Wentz is not able to do that because we don't have the offensive line to protect him, to allow him to do what he wants. And at the moment, we don't have the weapons to allow Wentz to do whatever he wants.
That's a really good point, and I think that we saw a lot of this, though, from Carson Wentz as well last season. He's missing a lot of players. He's throwing the balls too high. Something that makes me nervous about Carson Wentz, he'll get the ball in to, say, Zach Ertz or Dallas Goedert, but where he puts it, his players are absolutely getting crushed. It's a lot of helmet to helmet. It's a lot of contact. I think Carson throws into that a little bit too much, and it gets me nervous. I mean, we saw it last year when Zach Ertz got literally obliterated in the end zone right before the playoffs. But I think that, the Eagles' offensive line is terrible. The weapons are not there. But Carson Wentz, what everybody thinks he is just not who he is this season. And it really wasn't who he was last year. Now, granted, he got a practice squad to the playoffs. So I will give him credit for that. But getting sacked 8 times, some of that has to go on the quarterback. The interceptions are starting to be a huge problem. As soon as the Eagles get momentum, Carson throws an interception. Now, you have to put some of that blame, especially on the J.J. Arcega-Whiteside one, where he's not running the correct route. But at the same time, you're the quarterback. You facilitate that as well. So I think that Carson, he needs to get out of his head a little bit. He needs to win this week. I know it's only game 3, but this is must win against a rookie quarterback and a not very good Cincinnati Bengals team. You have to win this one because then what is the media going to say about you? We know how the media loves to throw on Philly.
They're going to start calling for Jalen Hurts, and I'm not a fan of that because Jalen, I understand he's a second-round pick, but he's only made an impact on, quote, 3 plays from the Wildcat formation. So I don't want to start hearing that, but then the way the Philadelphia media is and how we are as, Philadelphia sports-based, I'm going to just hear it on the Fanatic or, ESPN and 94.1. They're just going to bash Wentz into the ground and bash everyone. But honestly, you're going to do it and then watch Wentz turn it up, and then you're going to be loving him once again. And before we switch on to other Eagles problems, I just want to make this key point. Please stop bringing up Nick Foles, okay? It's been a whole year since he's been here. I understand he won the only Super Bowl in franchise history. He made a great impact. Everybody loves him. But Nick Foles isn't coming through the door. Even if he did come through the door, I don't believe he could do what Wentz is doing because this team is different from the 2017 and 2018 team, okay? I just want to say Nick Foles hasn't had to deal with as much as Wentz has had to deal with the Eagles in the past, I want to say 2 seasons. Because I, for number one, don't believe that Nick Foles could get the Eagles to the playoffs last season. Just stop bringing up Nick Foles. He's not coming back anytime soon. Let go of the past and move on to the future with Wentz. And then if it's not going to be Wentz, maybe Jalen Hurts. If it's not Jalen Hurts, then I don't know who. But I just want you guys to stop bringing up Nick Foles, okay? He's not a Hall of Famer. You act like he's just all of that because of one season. Just stop.
Which wasn't even a full season, by the way. Nick Foles hasn't gotten through a full season at all. He hasn't been successful that way. Now, I love Foles. I think he's a great person. I'm glad that he got us a Super Bowl. But at the same time, Foles has never gotten through a full season. Now, I understand a lot of people calling for Jalen Hurts. It makes sense. Carson's not playing well right now. Jalen Hurts isn't going to be the answer because he's a rookie quarterback and this system is absolutely terrible.
But what have you seen? What have you seen from Jalen Hurts that makes you want to say put in?
I just think because Carson's playing so bad that they want somebody else in there. But once you see Jalen Hurts actually play, you're gonna be like, okay, maybe I actually want Carson back now. At the same time, though, what is the point of Howie getting a quarterback in the second round? It still blows my mind. The year after you pay your franchise quarterback a 4-year deal, I truly don't understand it, and it just aggravates me so bad. I tweeted about this yesterday because, John Clark tweeted the receivers we're going to have for this week, and I'm sitting here like, instead of getting a receiver, Howie Roseman decided to get another quarterback. You are giving Carson Wentz no help. Carson does not look good, and he looks even worse because this receiving core is absolutely awful. He doesn't have any weapons. This offensive line is trash. I understand there's a lot of injuries. I get that. That's the plague of week 2, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But Howie Roseman is not doing Carson Wentz any help. And this Eagles team right now, I said it in the beginning of the season, and a lot of people were like, no, they'll be good. I just don't really think this is going to be a season for them that's good. I think that it's kind of going to be a lost cause this year.
So we're looking at, the receiving core, and you bring up Jalen Hurts being drafted in the second round. That's where you could have took another wide receiver. You could have possibly took a different kind of running back, maybe a guy that's just a pure receiving threat. You could have drafted some offensive linemen. You could have drafted a linebacker. You could have drafted a cornerback. You could have drafted a defensive back.
Or traded up for CeeDee Lamb.
Traded up for CeeDee Lamb. He's the only one so far out of the rookie wideouts that have been making some type of impact. Henry Ruggs has been hurt. Jefferson hasn't really done much. Jerry Jeudy's been okay so far. So CeeDee Lamb looks like the guy you should have got. Now, I'm not saying that Jalen Reagor isn't the guy. He's been banged up, no fault of his own, besides the shoulder injury he got in practice when he was diving to make a tackle for no reason. Right.
But they need other people besides Jalen Reagor. One rookie wide receiver is not going to be your answer. I'm not saying CeeDee Lamb is going to be your answer either, but having multiple weapons in the wide receiving core, knowing that your 2 starters, as you say, in Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson, are older and banged up. Yeah. You know that. So as a general manager, wide receiver should have been your number 1 priority. Knowing that last year, what happened, Greg Ward was your number 1 wide receiver. I love Greg Ward. I think he did great things, but he's not going to be that number 1 guy. You want it to be Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey. Alshon's not going to be playing this weekend. Deshaun Jackson is banged up, and they're not even using him well. They barely used Jalen Reagor in that Rams game for the deep ball. So you needed more weapons offensively to give your quarterback a chance. Instead, you draft the same position. It doesn't make sense to me. I would love somebody listening to make it make sense.
To continue with the drafting and wide receiver thing, I just want to bring up this quick point. You don't even have to look far for a team that has drafted receivers over the years and years and continue to develop them. You just have to go a few hours west to Pittsburgh. Okay, so they drafted AB years ago. AB was a 6th-round draft pick. He wasn't a first-round draft pick. AB's arguably a Hall of Famer. They drafted Mike Wallace in the 3rd round years ago. Mike Wallace had a huge impact. Martavis Bryant, yes, he couldn't stay on the field for many reasons because he was a knucklehead off the field. But if you look what he was doing on the field, great impact. You look at a guy as James Washington. I'm not saying the Eagles have to go out and draft a guy to be a Hall of Famer. You just have to draft guys that make good impact. James Washington at times has shown you flashes. Arthur-Whiteside has not. Nelson Aguilar has not. You look like a guy at Deontay Johnson, who the Steelers drafted a few years ago. No one probably expected him to make the impact that he has, but once again, that's their scouting and their coaching that has done the receivers the right way. You look at Juju Smith-Schuster. He was taken the 2nd round from USC. A lot of guys don't like USC wide receivers, but I would think Juju Smith-Schuster would be one of the, I don't want to say elite or top receivers, but he's definitely top 15 when healthy, and he has Big Ben playing. And then you could just look at this draft year alone. Charles Claypool, 6'4", 230. He had about an 80-yard touchdown last year. That was a complete bomb. He has a better stat sheet than Arcega-Whiteside has in 2 years, and he's only played 3 NFL games. That's what I'm talking about. You just have to look at these guys that they are bringing in, and they're bringing in just garbage players. And then what do? You have to go to the practice squad to try to bring up a guy like Greg Ward, even though he's made a great impact, but you're not going to find a Greg Ward every week or every year. You have to look at free agency. They bring in guys like from old Miles Austin and Deshaun back, and they bring in Alshon. Well, you're paying all these different kind of guys, but then you can't put that money to where, I don't know, maybe the offensive line, maybe the defensive backs, maybe the linebackers. At times when they didn't have a running back, the running backs. So it's like they keep drafting these scrub people because they had, who was it? Sheldon Gibson of the Super Bowl year. He was like about a fifth round pick.
Gosh.
Okay, I understand. He's a 5th round pick. I don't expect him to be a Hall of Famer. Once again, I don't expect many of these guys to be Hall of Famers. But the way you're reacting is because Gibson was once again trash. Mac Hollins, trash. You're bringing in these players that are trash. So
it's the decision making too, though, because
why doesn't Howie get any type of blame?
I think because the Super Bowl year. Because all of a sudden you bring in LeGarrette Blount, you bring in Jay Ajayi. Yes, those were great moves. He had a good draft with Andre Dillard and Miles Sanders. Yes, that was great. But overall, when you look at it, Howie Roseman has not done that good for this team. Now, I know we're all living in glory because the Eagles won their first ever Super Bowl in 2017. But if you ever want to get there again, you got to start doing something. Another thing that I talked about is that decision making. Last year, there is absolutely no reason that Mac Hollins should have been on the active roster over Greg Ward. Why was Greg Ward sitting on the practice squad while Mac Hollins was getting all this time? By the way, he was injured forever with whatever he had. I don't remember if it was an abdominal injury or a foot, some mysterious injury that he was out for almost a year and a half after that Super Bowl.
Typical Philadelphia, right? They're having some type of weird injury and missing significant time.
But it's just crazy to me how you see Mac Hollins not producing. You see that he's injured. Why aren't you bringing up somebody that can help your quarterback, that can help your team out? I understand Greg Ward might not be an immediate effect. He's got to learn the playbook. He's got to get on that speed. He's got to have the chemistry with Carson Wentz. But it's worth a try because if you're relying on guys like Mac Hollins and Shelton Gibson, you're literally not going to go anywhere.
So that's my thing. We're going to continue with the weapons. Why not bring in Antonio Brown? I know everyone's like, oh, he's a head case. He suspended 8 games, yada, yada, yada. I was at the gym yesterday, and you know what I saw? There's a report that he might go to Houston because Houston traded DeAndre Hopkins.
What? Yes. I did not see. That would be crazy.
I seen it on Get Up, and they were asking Ryan Clark, and they're like, do it. I understand AB. Once again, he's a head case. He's older. I know this team is old. But if you bring him in for 8 games, God forbid if he doesn't get suspended any longer or anything like that, what is there to lose? You pay him the vet min. You give him basically free realm on whatever routes he likes to run, his workouts. He just needs a team to believe in him. I'm not saying that just because I have him on my fantasy team in my dynasty league. But remember, big Pittsburgh fan. I remember when AB was the 6th round draft pick, and then he didn't make any impact. And then next thing I know, he's getting a punt return, and he's kicking Stephon Lanning in the face. And then next thing I know, he's putting up historic numbers over 6 seasons of 100 catches, over 1,000 yards, over 10 touchdowns, being absolutely dominant. And then I understand whole off the field, mental illness, everything on with the Raiders and the Patriots and all his luggage that he carries. I understand that. Don't get me wrong. But the guy knows how to run routes. You just don't forget to run routes. You don't forget how to work out. Another guy coming off injury. He turned down a contract from the Baltimore Ravens years ago now. Des Bryant. I don't understand what the issue is. Give the man a deal for the rest of this year. See how he does. And let's do the thing. Because you can't tell me he can't be any worse than J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Or, honestly, maybe Hightower. I don't even know who is after Deshaun Jackson and Greg Ward. Now, I know Alshon's going to come back. He just practiced. But once again, I don't expect Alshon to be here after this year. I don't know how his contract, maybe even next year he might have one more year on his deal. I'm not 100% sure. But I don't expect Alshon to be here. Alshon's just a little slant guy. He doesn't get down the field where AB and Des can. And another guy, because now that marijuana is now allowed in the NFL, is Martavis Bryant. He has killer speed. He's less than 30. This is a guy that you can throw the vet min on once again, roll the dice, and see what happens. That's what I'm saying. We're talking about trying to win another Super Bowl, right? I know you have to draft and build within, but you also need the key acquisitions outside that will make a difference. I see Antonio Brown, Antonio Brown, Des Bryant, and Martavis Bryant are 3 players that can make an impact. I don't know if they'll ever be back on another NFL roster. I'm just spitballing. This is ideas that I'm just thinking of, but they can't be worse than J.J. Arcega-Whiteside.
Now, Antonio Brown is a little bit I disagree with, just because I feel like this Eagles team is structured with a very strong locker room, believe it or not, and I think they look for that in personalities. I think that's one of the reasons they let go of Michael Bennett 2 years ago? Was it 2 years ago? Mm-hmm. But I just don't think that Antonio Brown would be a good fit for this team. Now, Des Bryant, he kind of raises some questions for me just because that old injury scenario with the New Orleans Saints, he was going to be on that team. He tore something, I believe.
Tore his Achilles.
Right. And that's a little bit, I don't want to see that again in Philadelphia. With this medical system, it's more than likely that he's going to get hurt again.
He looks like he can still run some type of routes. You know,
I don't know.
There's a different story of if he comes here and then he gets hurt, then you know he's completely done and he's shot. Like his body's just breaking down. But there is nothing wrong with trying. Because the main thing they can do to set up their contract, hopefully, sports agent in the future, come pick me up to represent your boy, is Jerry McCoy signed with the Dallas Cowboys, D-tackle, came from the Carolina Panthers, standout D-tackle for the Tampa Bay Bucks years ago, right? So, they had a clause in his contract that if he were to tear anything with the quad that he already previously injured, that they can cut him, waive him, be, not reliable for any type of money or anything like that. And they could do the same thing with Des Bryant. They could do it in a contract that if you hurt your Achilles, that we can just let you go and not owe you any type of money. So they can do that. That's what I mean. They can put language in a contract that can protect them, but also protect him from himself.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the Eagles will mess that up somehow. Now Des Bryant, that's like a give or take. If he was available and he really wanted to get back into the game, I wouldn't mind it. Now Martavis Bryant, I would definitely take. Another thing to kind of look over is Stephon Diggs last season. He was on the Minnesota Vikings. We knew he wasn't happy. He wasn't getting the touches that he wanted as a wide receiver. He was on the market. He wanted to be traded, and the Buffalo Bills got it done. So you want to tell me that the Eagles...
They gave up a lot.
I understand that. But you're going to tell me right now that the Eagles could have given up that second draft pick because that second draft pick went to a quarterback. You could have given that draft pick up and got Stephon Diggs. I'm not even talking about Stephon Diggs in general. I'm talking about players like him, DeAndre Hopkins. That would have probably been too much for the Eagles. They probably would have had to give up really, really big pieces because he is one of the best receivers in the game. But it's just, I don't understand. The Eagles never really have that star wide receiver, that difference maker. Now, 2017, I think they had a lot of good pieces. They had Jay Ajayi, they had LeGarrette Blount, Alshon Jeffrey was in his prime. They had Torrey Smith, who was a really good addition for the Eagles. Zach Ertz, of course, but they don't really necessarily have that star connection or that star player. I don't know where Zach Ertz has been either. This is supposed to be, quote-unquote, his contract year. Him and the Eagles are on the same page. I don't know if he's just down and mentally, in his head because the Eagles are not giving him the respect that he wants and that contract that he wants. But Zach Ertz has been absolutely invisible. Why wasn't Deshaun Jackson targeted until the second half of that Rams game? Why did he get absolutely zero touches in the first half? I mean, he's supposed to be your deep threat. You bought him back for what? He's apparently healthy, as he says. So why isn't Deshaun Jackson getting any touches? And then if you don't want to throw to Deshaun Jackson, you got a speed and Jalen Reagor, who's now injured, of course, but in that Rams game, he wasn't. He was fine. So why aren't you utilizing what you have? You have the speed. They can probably outrun a lot of guys in the NFL. I don't know if it's the play calling. I don't know if it's the decision-making by Carson. I do think that Carson holds on to the ball way too long. But at the same time, it really hasn't been the same since Frank Wright and John DeFilippo have been on the Eagles. I love Doug Peterson. I think he's a very good coach. But I also think he needs some help.
And that's the man of the hour right now is Mr. Doug Peterson. Very arrogant this week in his press conference, I heard. He was one of the reporters asked him a question. He just responded saying, good question. Who are you to be so arrogant? Once again, thank you for the Super Bowl. I highly appreciate that. You're a great coach. You believe in your players, yada, yada, yada. You got to give more to the fans and more to the media because we need to know what's going on because Miles Sanders is very hot against the LA Rams, and once again, they turn away from the run. Where is the screen game that we used to have from the 2017 and even the 2018 season with guys like Corey Clement, Jay Ajayi, Trey Burton with tight end screens, Nelson Aguilar.
That was all with Frank Reich and John DiFilippo.
But if you know that you were running it, what's the issue of when two coaches leave that we just stop running it when we have the same system and the same talent? What's wrong with that? I don't understand. The screen game has been a staple of the Philadelphia Eagles for years. Since the Andy Reid days and Brian Westbrook and Carell Buckhalter, we were running screens every week. I understand if the lineman is banged up, but if the linemen are pretty quick and just lay a hat on somebody, then we can get holes and we can get maybe 7, 8, 10-yard pops in the screen game. We don't need the 20 to 30-yard games. We have Boston Scott. He is so small. Put him behind them big linemen and get them moving, and you just continue to run the same old boring plays that aren't making a difference in the game.
I think one of Peterson's strengths is play calling and going for it on fourth down, really drawing up those kinds of things. But I don't know if it's somebody like Carson Wentz that him and Carson will have the connection, because I'm going to talk about Foles for a minute. I'm not saying I want Foles to be back on this team. I'm not saying that he's better than Carson Wentz. But what I'm going to say is, for some reason, I feel like Doug and Foles, with his play calling ability and how Foles plays, that kind of worked a little bit better. I think Doug Peterson is a big RPO guy, and Carson is not a big RPO quarterback. He's just not. He likes to scramble in the pocket. I get you don't want him to run because you don't want him to get injured, but both of them have to figure out how to complement each other's game, because it's just absolutely awful right now. Carson looks like a deer in headlights out there. He is holding on the ball for too long. He cannot hit any of his guys. When they start to get momentum, he throws an interception. I know it's only been 2 games. I understand we're going into week 3. But this is kind of reminding me of what Carson did in the beginning of last season as well. I know, granted, he got to the playoffs with the practice squad. I get that. But Carson Wentz needs to improve. He's not going to be 2017 Carson Wentz. Get that out of your minds. He's not MVP candidate right now. He just needs to get better than what he's done these last 2 games. He needs to give his team a chance, because right now the Eagles are centered all around him. They don't have the weapons, but that's the guy that they rely on to get things done.
And it's not just slowly Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson. Sorry, I just drew a major blank. The defense has been struggling too. They gave up 17 unanswered points to the Washington football team. Then the Rams came in and ran the ball all over them with Henderson and Malcolm Brown and Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, and Tyler Higbee had 3 touchdowns. Jim Schwartz is struggling with this wide 9 defense. There's absolutely no pass rush. And once again, the pass rush is, not there. The wide 9 has not developed anything. I don't know where Derek Barnett is. I know Fletcher Cox is already banged up. Brandon Graham, I know he's banged up, and he's not making a progress.
I think the thing with Derek Barnett, too, is he had a good rookie year, and he just hasn't shown his ability through these past few seasons. Brandon Graham, another guy that they brought back on a deal. Brandon Graham is still good, but the thing you have to think about is he's older now. He's going to get injury. It just can't be Brandon Graham. Now, Fletcher Cox is always going to be good because he's Fletcher. Last season, though, he kind of, I think
he's
a little bit.
On his way down a little bit.
I think so, too.
He's getting more and more hurt. I'm telling you, there's going to be some names here that have made a major impact between, I want to say, 2016 from Wentz's rookie year to, I want to say, 2021, that there's going to be some names here that aren't going to be here because they're going to want to get paid, or they're going to need to get paid, and we're not going to be able to keep them. And they're getting a lot older and older, and we're not going to be able to keep a lot of these guys.
You know who would be good on defense right now? It would be Malcolm Jenkins. I am still sick about the Eagles not paying Malcolm Jenkins. I get it. I understand that he's not a young safety anymore. But you're going to move on to Jalen Mills and Ryan McLeod, when, by the way, Malcolm Jenkins played every single snap the past 2 seasons. He has been your whole entire secondary, getting those younger guys together. He has shown an absorbent amount of effort. And not only that, he's extremely talented, and I felt like helped this defense out a lot. These guys are getting burned so bad. Darius Slay is not all he seems to be, in my opinion, because he just does not look good in these last 2 games. He was a little bit banged up, it looked like last week too, so we have to take that into account. But it's literally the whole entire team. I don't really know what's going on. Isaac Sayamalu is injured. I believe they said he's not coming back on Sunday. So that's another offensive lineman that you're losing. The Eagles have to do something. I understand that injuries happen, and that seems to be the plague of the Philadelphia Eagles for the past few seasons, but you're not helping your quarterback out at all. The coaching is not, Jim Schwartz has not been good for the past few years. I just really don't understand it, and it's frustrating to watch it every single week.
And once again, I believe it's because they build the defense all wrong. Now, I understand getting Malcolm out the door because you don't want to pay him. I understand he's one of the older guys. It's going to be a trend. He's one of the older guys that got to go because he's going to want to make a lot of money. And now I like Darius Slay. Now, Darius Slay is an individual that can lock down a receiver, okay? But he is not going to be able. A cornerback is not the guy that's just going to hold the entire defense together. We have two older safeties. One safety gets burnt on a double move every week. It doesn't matter if he's playing safety and or corner, and that is Mr. Jalen Mills. He's literally burnt toast every week, and we bring him back just to try him out as safety. You should have just let him go out the door. Now, Rodney McLeod, he's more of a hitter, more of a thumper guy. He's not much of a coverage guy. I respect that. I'll keep it. But once again, it goes back to drafting. Where's Sidney Jones? He's down in Jacksonville. Where's Rasheed Douglas? He's out on the street. You draft these defensive backs that can't play, and once again, we're getting burnt every week by Robert Woods, Terry McLaurin. This week, it's going to be either Tyler Boyd or A.J. Green or the tight end that they have, Drew Sample. Someone's going to be open, and they're going to get exploited. A lot of these defensive backs, besides Avonte Maddox, he's okay. He's all right.
Trayvon LeBlanc.
But there's guys that at times can make plays and make stops, but they're not the guys that you want out there every week. Nicole Roby, who they just brought in, I have not seen a play from him all week, from the past 2 games. I have not seen it yet. I haven't heard anything about any injuries. I haven't heard anything about him making an impact in training camp. Will Parks, he was supposed to be a guy. He's from Philly. He's supposed to be a guy that's supposed to come in and make a difference. What happened? Boom. He's hurt with a hamstring. He probably won't be back till week 5. So, once again, what can you do to possibly fix this issue? What about Earl Thomas? Now, I know he had the whole issues with Seattle and Baltimore. You know what? It doesn't hurt if you don't try, right? At least if you try it, and if you get burnt, you cut your loss, and you know what? That's what it is. Because you're just going to keep bringing up practice squad guys. I was watching a game last week. They signed a guy on Tuesday, and he has to play on Sunday because we have another injury. It's like, at least Earl Thomas would do something possibly positive. You know what I mean? I'm more about second chances. I'm that kind of guy that I try to give you a benefit of the doubt. And then, you know what? If you burn me, guess what? You're gone. I don't see the pain in it. I understand we're not going to make a Super Bowl run, but at least if we had someone to play some type of defense, maybe we'll win a few more games than maybe 7 or 8, because that's what the season's possibly looking at.
Yeah, I'm not really on the Earl Thomas bandwagon, if I'm going to be honest with you, because I think organizations like Seattle and Baltimore, especially right now, I mean, everything's good when you're winning. Everything's good when you have a good team. The locker room just seems to get along. And if he can't really have success and thrive in those locker rooms on a personality level, I just don't see him doing it over here in Philadelphia, especially right now, because this team is so, in my opinion, mentally down because of how they're playing. The mentality is just not there. Not everybody's on the same page. I don't necessarily think he would be good for this team right now. I think his personality coming into this locker room where the Eagles are 0-2, not looking good, I don't necessarily think that it would be a good thing for Philadelphia. Now, if he came on this team, would I be mad about it? Probably not. But looking at it from an actual standpoint of him coming on to the Eagles, I don't think it would be a good idea. I really, really hope as an Eagles fan that they win this week. I don't expect them to win, honestly. I do think the only thing that they have an advantage of is that front four on defense, but they're still banged up. We saw that Fletcher Cox went down last week. I thought he was going to be out for the game. He ended up coming back, but he's not 100% either. Once we said before, Brandon Graham is also older. He's banged up. Derek Barnett's always banged up. So I think that, that defensive line is a little bit of an advantage. I think they're going to put a lot of pressure on Joe Burrow, but at the same time, injuries always seem to plague the Philadelphia Eagles. They have in week 2 for every NFL team. And I'm really worried about this Eagles team, especially if they lose against Cincinnati.
No, I think they will win this game. I don't think it's going to be pretty. If you look at the film, if you did see the Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals game from last Thursday, I understand it was a long time ago, but Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb were running all over that Cincinnati defense. They were not really throwing the ball. Baker Mayfield did have the one deep ball to Odell Beckham Jr., and then he had a few more, good throws. That's what we need. We need Carson Wentz to play game manager. Can we run the ball? Run miles and run miles and run miles, and then dabble a little Boston Scott, and just continue to keep the ball game out of Wentz's hands. Now, the defense, they have to show up, because even though the Cincinnati Bengals, they are a young team, their coach, Zach Taylor, comes from Sean McVay. So he's probably looking at the film. He's probably looking at plays that worked against the Eagles' defense, and I believe that the Eagles need to do the same thing. They need to look at the film between the Rams game and then this past game where the Bengals put up 30 points. It's not like they put up 10 points and got destroyed by the Browns. They were in that game late. So you need to look at the film and see what you can do. The front four has to get pass rush because Cincinnati does not have a great offensive line. Their best offensive lineman is their left tackle. So that means the rest of their offensive linemen are not stellar athletes and or stellar guys to be able to slow down Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Derek Barnett, and Javon Hargraves. So the front four needs to get pressure. The linebackers, can you please cover somebody? And if you are blitzing,
the linebackers, though, have been terrible for the past 2 seasons. First off, I don't understand why the Eagles got rid of Nigel Bradham. When I actually saw that in this past offseason, I said, you're literally getting rid of your only linebacker that actually provides you something. The linebacker core has been bad. That's something in the draft that you needed to excel on. I said that second-round pick, probably, maybe it should go to a receiver or maybe it should go to a linebacker who's ever really available, whichever position is better. But this linebacker core has been struggling for the past few seasons. And as soon as you get beyond that front four, you're in good luck. You're going to have a field day because nobody else can cover.
Mm-hmm. So it looks like Darius Slay would probably have to color Tyler Boyd. But don't get me wrong, just because A.J. Green isn't A.J. Green from 2013 doesn't mean that he can't dominate you. So Philadelphia, please do your homework, because if you lose this game, I don't know what's going to happen, because the city of Philadelphia might blow up in flames.
They're going to riot.
It's not that we expected the Eagles to make this almighty Super Bowl run, but we also did not expect you to be 0-3. You should have beat the Washington football team. The Rams, okay, I could expect a loss against the Rams because the Rams are a veteran team with the same staff and same players and everything, so I expected that game to be a loss. But if you lose to the Cincinnati Bengals, who tweeted out the other day that I think they're 10-3-1 against Philadelphia all the time, and then someone quoted a tweet and said, I never imagined the Cincinnati Bengals trash talking the Philadelphia Eagles. Get it together, because if you lose this game, chalk up this season, and then start looking for the draft and start looking to get rid of some of the guys that aren't making an impact, a.k.a. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Goodbye.
And not only did the Eagles lose this week, the Cowboys won in a crazy way. That onside kick was just crazy.
I turned the game off with 2 minutes left. I said, the Falcons got this game. I went outside and I came back, and next thing I know, Dallas wins. And I was like, what did I miss?
I actually watched the whole entire thing. Well, what I was able to watch, what was on TV. Of course, they put that ending on, and that onside kick was absolutely crazy. It's the first onside kick, personally, I've seen since the rule change last season, but that was recovered. And then they win it on a field goal. But there's nothing worse than an Eagles loss and a Cowboys win, especially how the Cowboys won it. Now, I've said it before. I think the Cowboys are going to win this division. I think on paper they have a very good team. They don't always seem to provide and they have a good team, but I do think they have a lot of talent this year. Dak is a pretty good quarterback. He can throw the deep ball. So it's very frustrating because right now, after watching that game, I understand it was the Atlanta Falcons, but the Eagles and the Cowboys don't even look like they're in the same stratosphere. Like, it's just absolutely crazy. The Cowboys won. There was a lot of other good games in the NFL this week. The Eagles just weren't one of them.
I don't know if that's more of a Dallas continue to make a push to win the game, or if that's just the Atlanta Falcons once again blowing a lead like they did in the Super Bowl 28-3 some years ago to Tom Brady and the Patriots. It's astonishing because I didn't really get to watch the game, but I have a few players in fantasy and whatnot, and I get updates. Calvin Ridley and Matt Ryan, if you were getting the updates, if you have them on your team, you were thinking this was like Randy Moss back in the day, because he was absolutely dominating. Matt Ryan was looking like Peyton Manning, and the next thing I know, they can't even get the onside kick, and then the special teams coach afterwards is, we should have been more aggressive to get the ball. Well, no.
Oh, really? Or you just stand there and let it bounce and lose the game?
You're just going to stand there, look at the ball, swivel, and the next thing I know, gives the 10 yards, and then Dallas gets it, and then next thing you know, they win the game. Really? Come on, Atlanta. Do better than that. You should have got a new coach after last season. Dan Quinn should have been gone. I don't understand why he's still there. You brought in Todd Gurley. You got not AJ Green, Julio Jones, and then you have Calvin Ridley. Like, what do y'all have certain pieces to be I don't want to say a dominant team, but a team that could possibly make a run because you can put up points. Matt Ryan is no slouch. Don't get me wrong. He's not the greatest, but he's a very solid and sometimes elite quarterback at times. And once again, Atlanta blows the lead. It's going to be interesting to see what the Cowboys and the Seahawks do. That's going to determine what
I'm excited
happens.
for that game.
I think Seattle, is it in Dallas or is it in Seattle?
I believe it's in Seattle. I'll look it up right now, but
Either way, give me the Seahawks because this team is on fire right now. Russell Wilson, MVP right now. It is at Seattle. It's in Seattle. Give me Russell Wilson for MVP because this man is just balling out. I love how they just allow him to do his thing. And he goes out there, he's throwing 3 to 5 touchdowns easily. And it's like he doesn't even sweat. And then he just goes home to his wife, Sierra, and his family. Like, the man must have the life. He's one of the top quarterbacks in the league. And we were talking earlier about how he's underrated. And now everyone's like, oh, Russell Wilson. Where have you been? Russell Wilson.
He's always been like this. If you haven't learned anything. You guys just been
sleeping on him. And they played against the Patriots team that Cam Newton looks like Cam Newton from 2015.
Cam Newton looks really good. And I actually had the Seahawks winning this game because I just thought, the Patriots are good. They have Bill Belichick now, the new addition with Cam Newton. But I just think the Seahawks right now really look unstoppable. But I really wanted Cam Newton to win it just because I wanted to see Newton be successful. It was a really exciting game. It was right. It was exactly what I wanted for a Sunday night football game. The only thing that I don't agree with in that one is the play calling at the 1 yard line, just for the pure fact that they were doing quarterback sneaks all night. I called a quarterback sneak anyway by Cam Newton, but it was just too predictable at that point. The defensive line was right. The defensive line was right there. The offensive line just completely fell down, so there was no chance really to Cam to get in the end zone. I think in that situation, you might want to draw a better play, but nevertheless, it was a good game. It was a competitive game. It shows you what Russell Wilson can do, and it also shows you that, Cam Newton's back in this thing. He just faced Russell Wilson and the Seahawks and almost won that.
He's so motivated to play. The way it ended in Carolina for Cam Newton was absolutely horrific. He was getting banged up. They didn't want to give him any weapons besides Christian McCaffrey. They didn't want to draft any linemen. They basically just wanted him to carry the whole team. And you can't do that in the NFL. It's a team game, and next thing you know, he's getting ankle injuries, foot injuries. He's getting shoulder surgeries. He's banged up. And next thing you know, they cut him through text message. So I'm happy to see a team like, honestly, New England. I didn't like New England and Brady, but I like Brady in Tampa, and I like Cam Newton in New England. It's kind of weird, but
it was just annoying that every single year it was Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, New England Patriots. But now that he's not on the Patriots, it's like one of those things where you don't recognize success when it's right there. Like, wow, Tom Brady actually really did all that.
Yeah.
Like, he was insane. But, Bill Belichick's a really good coach, and he's proving it right now because he doesn't have Tom Brady, but he's got Cam Newton now. Now, Cam Newton's a very decent, good quarterback. He's not necessarily Tom Brady, who I think is one of the best quarterbacks to ever play this game. But it just shows you that Bill Belichick, he doesn't mess around. He's a very good coach, and that was a really good Sunday night game. Kind of going to the Monday night game, the Raiders versus Saints. The Raiders, the real deal, because they put 34 points up on New Orleans, and I was shocked.
I don't know. A lot of people are kind of skeptical on the Saints right now because Drew Brees looks to be 41. Apparently, he's not really having a great start to the season. My major thing is Michael Thomas is out. I think Michael Thomas is a key.
He's one of the best receivers in the game right now.
Yeah. You can make an argument for top receivers between him and DeAndre Hopkins. You can make the argument and Julio. You can make the argument for whoever you want to be number one. Personally, I like DeAndre Hopkins more.
I do too.
But the Saints, they just honestly they didn't even look interested in the game. John Gruden was calling a great game, and he was getting production out of players that weren't really, honestly, players that you thought were going to get production because for a person that has Josh Jacobs, in fantasy, he didn't have the best night. I certainly thought that this was going to be a high-scoring game. Honestly, pushing 60 total points, maybe 70 total points. I thought it was going to be kind of a shootout, but it looked to me that the Raiders were not ready to start their new new stadium off with a loss out in Vegas. They were really dominant. They were getting allowed to push off the ball. But I think that was honestly the Saints not having Michael Thomas. I think Drew Brees was just having an off night. I think they bounced back this week, but...
Is Michael Thomas back this week? Or
no, he's
I didn't
out.
think so.
I don't think he's going to... They honestly should have just put him on IR because this is the second week he's going to be out. They should have just held him out for the 3-week IR stint that they have right now in the NFL. They should have just held him out to let him get healthy. He did practice.
The Saints also have a really tough game this week, so that'll be interesting.
Who are they playing this week?
Playing the Packers.
They're playing the Packers.
But Devontae Adams is also banged up. I don't know if he's going to
honestly,
play.
it's going to be a battle between Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees, but I'm more of a Drew Brees guy at home. We'll talk about our picks later on. But the Raiders, they go up to New England. Apparently, the last time that the Raiders went to New England and had John Gruden as a head coach, a Super Bowl legend was brought into the world, and Tom Brady, because the Tuck rule happened. That's almost 20 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
But
isn't that crazy?
It's crazy how time has flew by, but that Raiders-Saints game, I think that was more of the Saints just not being aware and not being there all
Now,
together.
if the Raiders win this week, then they're really going to be a topic of conversation.
I'll be astonished because ain't no one really even talking about the Raiders like that.
No, not
no one
at
really
all.
picked them to be even a wild card team or possibly win the division or make a run at all. But John Gruden's a heck of a coach, and I would be surprised, but I wouldn't be surprised because it's John Gruden.
Yeah, I'm not really high on the Raiders right now. Like you said, they're not really a team that I picked to even really get a wild card spot. But I think if they beat the Patriots, they beat Bill Belichick, they beat Cam Newton. We saw what the Patriots could do last week against the Seahawks. I think, you have to start thinking of Las Vegas as a real team if they beat New England. But that we'll get to our predictions in a little bit. You want to go down the week 2 injury list just real quick? Just this crazy injury bug that happened. I tweeted something and I said, an update on week 2 in the NFL and just the Blue Tent because it was crazy.
Yeah, for all of us football fans, fantasy football fans that are just fans of certain players, it's honestly, it's 2020, so I can't even say I'm surprised because the way this year has gone so far, it's been up and down. But if you've been watching the football that's been being played, every week someone's getting hurt. So if you're a Giants fan, I'm sorry, but you lost Saquon Barkley to an ACL tear. And it's horrific because last year he was banged up. They didn't have no low line. This year they were talking about is Barkley even a real deal? Should they have drafted somebody else?
He needs to go to a new system.
Saquon Barkley just needs a new system, maybe a new team. I don't know what's going on, but unfortunately he blew out his ACL. Nick Bosa and Solomon Thomas of the 49ers. Now, they were complaining about the field at MetLife Stadium.
I did see that.
And they go back this week, and they sat out George Kittle last week because, remember, I was talking about possibly a load management going on in the NFL this year because when you're playing teams that are specifically out of your conference in games that matter but don't matter, do you want to maybe limit some of the snaps that your guys are playing because people are dropping left and right. Nick Bosa, Solomon Thomas are out. They also lost Jimmy G to a sprained ankle. Raheem Mostert and Kevin Coleman both suffered knee injuries. Cortland Sutton, who was battling injuries coming into the season for the Denver Broncos, he tears his ACL. They also lost Drew Lock against Pittsburgh to a sprained shoulder. You have Christian McCaffrey out with an ankle sprain. Devontae Adams out with a hamstring. We talked about Jalen Reagor and a UCL tear, and he did have surgery, so he looks to be back. Isaac Seumalo's out. And then, of course, the bizarre one of the week, about 5 minutes before kickoff for the LA Chargers, Tyrod Taylor goes to get a shot for pain for, I guess, whatever he was dealing with. Oh, a rib injury. That's what he had. He had a rib injury. They went to go give him a shot, and the team doctor punctures his lung. Now, if I was Tyrod Taylor, I'm suing everybody on the Chargers, your staff, the school you went to, their parents, their children. I'm going to own somebody. I'm going to own a team in the NFL. I would own the Chargers because that is so bizarre. You have an injury. You tell them, hey, can I get a shot or whatever? Yeah, no problem. And next you know, you can't breathe, and then you have to start Justin Herbert 5 minutes before kickoff.
Now, Justin Herbert did play pretty well, but
I think he played well because the Chiefs were not expecting him to play. They probably went out the first possession, and Andy Reid is like, why is Justin Herbert starting?
That game was very close, which was really interesting to me because I thought that the Chiefs were going to blow them out, but that's besides the point. I saw that Adam Schefter tweeted it, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, how does this even happen? That's completely awful. Now, here's a question I'm going to ask people listening. Do you think that the reason why there are so many injuries is because there was no preseason? Now, I understand that the starters don't play in preseason every single game, but that at least gives them time to have a few snaps, to go on game speed, to get the younger guys some reps in there. I think it has a lot to do with no preseason, and I don't know if that's something that they're going to look in for next year. I know with coronavirus and everything, they wanted to speed up the season and not have any of that. But realistically, the NFL has been trying to get away from preseason for the past few years.
They should have played at least 2 games.
At least 2, I agree.
They should have played 2 games, and it should have been against teams that are, quote, in your region. So the Eagles should have played like the Jets. The Washington football team should have played Baltimore, like vice versa like that. They should have had something along the lines of some type of training against another team so you can get guys a certain run. You can see what you actually have because everybody looks good in your own practice system. You know what I mean? When you go to the field and you see guys dressed in, shoulder pads and shorts, you're like, wow, he looks pretty good. I can't wait for him to get on the field. And then they either get banged up because their bodies aren't used to the hits. Now, some of these are tears. Like, you can't really do anything about an ACL tear or a sprained ankle. If someone falls on you. You can't really do anything about that. But, I think overall, I think these guys' bodies aren't used to the banging, and the injuries are going to keep coming and coming. I really don't think they're going to lighten up until maybe midway through the season. I think they're just going to keep happening. You're going to keep seeing guys get signed off the practice squads and off the street. Now, with Saquon Barkley being out, they did sign the Giants' Devontae Freeman. He said he turned
1 year,
down
$3 million.
He said he turned down more money with other teams because he liked what he saw with the Giants.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know what you saw, Devontae, but
I guess Daniel Jones is really good, apparently.
It's not even Daniel Jones. If Saquon Barkley didn't have holes to run through, where do you expect to run? That's what I want to know. So
I really don't
I
know.
wish you luck. I don't have you on any fantasy teams or anything like that. I don't plan on trading for you or anything like that. I hope you have a good season. I'm happy to see you back in the league. But I wish you luck and nothing more than that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he does with New York, especially this week against a banged-up 49ers team. But real quick, I want to touch on the last part of football until we do our predictions, is that, Miles Sanders, he was in the Rams game for the first time this season. That was his first game of the year, and he fumbled the ball, and the broadcaster said, he's probably just not used to the game speed. He's probably not used to the contact-on-contact hits. Of course he's not, because there was no preseason. So does that raise a question to you? Right. So does that raise a question to you that, these guys aren't used to the hits because they had no prior practice, even a few touches? Maybe that's why they're getting so banged up, because their body isn't prepared right now to take all that. Of course, training camp wasn't as it usually is because of the coronavirus. There's just a lot of questions to raise. It'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season goes, because if week 3, week 4, week 5 is anything like week 2, the NFL is going to run out of players to play for this season.
We're all disappointed with injuries around the NFL, but we're also disappointed as Philly fans because the Phillies, once again, will not finish with a winning record this season. They can break 500. It's absolutely horrific this season. I can't believe what my eyes and what I've been seeing all season from the Philadelphia Phillies, between the owner, the management, to the players on the field. The only person I'm not mad at is Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto, and Joe Girardi, because Joe Girardi is trying to do the best he can with this team. I feel so bad for him. He came in, I feel like, with high hopes, but it's just the team around him that he's just trying. He's trying so hard to do what is right, but once again, management up top isn't doing it. Today's the 26th. On the 16th or 19th, I saw a report. They had about an 88% chance to make the playoffs. Today, after losing once again another game by blowing the lead because of this horrendous bullpen, they have a solid 29% chance of making the playoffs.
Yeah, so I'm going to rant about this real quick because this actually gets me really mad. I think I've said on this podcast a little bit before that baseball is probably my first love, and I absolutely love the baseball season. The Phillies somehow allowed us to feel the pain of 162 games into 60 games. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. Now, they have to go 2-0. I just think they need to win out right now in order to even have a spot in the playoffs. Now, you have Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler. That is the good thing. They need to finish games. If they want to get into the playoffs, Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler need to go 9 innings. You cannot trust this bullpen to go in. Even if they get into the playoffs, which I doubt they're going to, this bullpen is absolutely horrendous. It's a shame because if you look at this team is actually pretty decent. The hitting does get it done. The starting pitching isn't terrible. The problem with them is they don't have depth. And when they don't go deep, you have to rely on your bullpen, and your bullpen's absolute trash. This is Matt Klentak's fault. I don't know why he had another chance this season. I said it last year. He should have gone before Gabe Kapler. Not that I like Gabe Kapler at all, but Matt Klentak should have been the first to go because what he did last season was just absolutely terrible. He didn't give Kapler a chance, and now you have a winning guy in Joe Girardi who has already proven his worth in this league, and you can't even give him a chance. If Matt Klentak doesn't go after the season, I think I will lose brain cells because it's absolutely terrible. I don't understand how you can look at this bullpen and say, yeah, this pitching will do it. You're literally having a talented team. You're wasting all of this talent right now because you want to have superb, because you're cheap, because you don't want to go in the luxury tax. Whatever it might be, this bullpen ruined all of your chances to get into the playoffs. They could have won last night. What does the bullpen do? Oh, I actually have different plans. That's what the bullpen says to the Philadelphia Phillies team.
So for everyone that needs to know, they need to win at least one game or both. If they go 1-1 this weekend, they need the Giants to lose both games to San Diego and the Brewers to win no more than one of their final 2 games against the Cardinals. All 3 teams would finish with the same record, and the Phillies would win the tiebreaker based on having a better divisional record than the Brewers and Giants. That's a shocker. Now, if they go 2-0, they're a playoff team. If the Giants lose at least one of their next 2 games, it won't matter what the Brewers do at all.
Yeah, guess who's the Giants head coach? Gabe Kapler. So if Gabe Kapler ends up winning out and we don't, can you imagine how this fan base and how this team is going to look? I mean, they should get into the playoffs. You have Bryce Harper, you have JT Realmuto, Didi Gregorius. You have the bats. That's what makes me so frustrated. And the starting pitching isn't awful. You don't need Cy Young Award starting pitchers. They have what they need to get it done. Vince Velasquez, believe it or not, had a good start yesterday.
Shocker.
But the bullpen came in and ruined it again. Not that I want to see Vince Velasquez on this team any longer because he needs to go. But just the pure fact that you had a good starting pitching performance and your bullpen messed it up once again. It's so frustrating, and it just makes me so bad. Like, you keep saying you need to do better. You're literally the reason why your team is awful. Everybody else is doing the work around you, including the coach and everything, except that bullpen. And I honestly hope, for dear God, that I don't see any of those pitchers in the bullpen next season or Matt Klentak.
And on top of that, Bryce Harper even had a quote, what is that? I can't come up with the term. It's just like he had like an inside the park a little league home run.
That's
yeah.
There
we go.
I did
he
see
even
that.
had a little league home run yesterday to try to put the team on his back because that's what he does. That's what we signed him for. And thankfully, he's been doing it. It's not like we signed the superstar and he hasn't been performing. We signed the superstar and the team around him, besides the hitters. The hitters have done their thing this year, but the pitching.
Terrible.
The poor pitching of the Philadelphia Phillies has been horrendous. The bullpen alone has a 7.17 ERA, which is the second worst behind only, of course, your 1930 Phillies, who posted an 8.01 ERA. So the top 2 worst ERAs
are from Philadelphia.
in MLB history for a bullpen belong to our beloved Fighting Phils.
And, the crazy thing, kind of talking about pitching a little bit, is that the Phillies, for whatever reason, have not signed JT Realmuto yet. By the way, everybody, the guy that we gave up to get JT Realmuto is Sixto Sanchez down in Miami. What is he doing in Miami? He's putting up a Rookie of the Year performance with the Marlins. If you do not sign JT Realmuto, this city is literally going to burn down. You're going to tell me you're going to give up Sanchez, a great pitcher, and we don't have good starting pitching at all besides Aaron Nola and maybe now Zach Wheeler. He is doing his thing down in Miami. If you don't sign JT Realmuto, this is going to be one of the worst things to ever happen in Philadelphia Phillies history. You gave up a key piece, and you're really risking getting rid of the best catcher in baseball who has done nothing but provide for you, who has good chemistry with this team, who literally won the Gold Glove last year, who's dominant on defensively as well. I just don't understand this organization. I literally don't. If they keep Matt Klentak for another year, I don't know if I'm going to watch another game of Phillies baseball, because I'm going to, obviously. I say that, but I'm going to watch it. You know what I'm saying. It's just frustrating because Matt Klentak is so bad. I don't know what John Middleton is doing, sitting there, not wanting to go on the luxury tax. This is also on him. This is really on the whole front office. I'm really tired of it because, once again, you're wasting Bryce Harper's prime years. You are wasting Bryce Harper's prime years, and I'm not going to sit here and watch another Philadelphia team do the same thing.
So you trade Hector Sanchez for JT Realmuto, the best catcher in the game. So I was listening to the radio the other day. They took him to arbitration in his last year, and they fought him over however much it was. Apparently, there's only like a 9 or 12% chance of, when you take that player who was in the last year of their contract to arbitration and the player loses, that they come back. So, John Middleton, this is one I want to ask you right now, because you're the owner and you believe you're all that, right? So you get Bryce Harper. Congrats. Beautiful. I love that move.
That was all John Middleton, by the way, not Matt Klentak. Keep going.
You get JT Realmuto. Well, John Middleton has to sign off on everything.
Right, but John Middleton's the one that went to Las Vegas to go talk to Bryce Harper without Matt Klentak.
That's my whole thing, right? So you get JT also. You have to sign off on that. You have to, because if you get JT for 2 years, you know you have to pay him.
And get rid of Sixto.
You have to go over the luxury tax. So you're going to tell me that when you got JT and you got Bryce, that was it? That you guys are going to win a World Series and then just be like, all right, JT can go? That's the only thing that would make up for JT walking out the door, is if you can host that trophy. And guess what? You didn't do it last year, and you're not going to do it this year. So if you don't sign the man, please, when he leaves and he goes out the door, I want you, Matt Klentak, and Andy McPhail, I want you to go right with him, because you completely wasted 2 years of control with JT. You didn't give him the contract. And then what do we need for this team? We need pitching. And the guy that's about to probably win Rookie of the Year is doing his thing in Miami. Could have did it in Philadelphia, and we could have been, I don't know, maybe a few games better. Possibly with Sanchez, we probably would have already been in the playoffs. I'm not saying that Sanchez is going to bring more wins than JT, but you can find another catcher.
But
right?
It's a loss if you're not going to sign JT and you gave up literally a Rookie of the Year candidate to Miami. And I want JT on this team. If I'm Bryce Harper, to be honest with you, I know that they're buddy-buddy as well. It's not even about that. It's that they're both the best players on this team right now. I wouldn't be surprised if Bryce Harper sits out, or he needs to say something needs to happen to get into this front office's head, because it's just absolutely ridiculous. And it grinds my gears so much, because we haven't had Phillies playoff baseball since 2011. It's been way too long, and now we're seeing the Miami Marlins go into the playoffs. It's just absolutely crazy, and I don't know what else this Phillies team has to do to get it across to Matt Klentak and John Middleton. Klentak needs to go. I'm about to make sure to saying fire Matt Klentak and go to the Fandemics and start handing them out, because this is absolutely ridiculous.
From one team that's going to frustrate us to a team that constantly frustrates us this past season in the NBA was our beloved 76ers. It looks like Mike D'Antoni and Ty Lue are possibly the final two candidates for the job. I ask you, Miss Santiago, who would you rather have, Ty Lue or Mike D'Antoni?
It's a really tough question, honestly. Personally, Ty Lue, and I'm going to say that because the team that you have right now is not a team that Mike D'Antoni is structured to coach. He coaches small ball, he coaches shooters, and the Sixers are the exact opposite of that. Now, if you get Simmons out of Philadelphia and you bring in James Harden, which has been the talk of the town, then I would understand it. I just don't think D'Antoni, though, is going to be a good coach, especially for Joel Embiid. I don't think that it's going to work out. Joel Embiid doesn't play small ball. He's a center. There's not a lot of centers like him. That's not really how the NBA is now. I get that. But you need a coach that is going to elevate the players that you already have. And I do think that Ty Lue can do that. Now, I'm not super high on Ty Lue. He's not my favorite ever. I just don't think D'Antoni's coaching style is built for how the team in Philadelphia is structured right now.
I know we've been talking about this since we honestly started the podcast, and I look at Mike D'Antoni. If he comes in and he's preaching small ball, then no, I'm sorry, you're not getting the job. But if you come in and you're going to talk to me and tell me how you can manage Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, because they were the two cornerstones of this franchise, I'll sit down and listen to you, because I believe that D'Antoni is a good coach.
I see, if they get him, I'm not going to be mad about it.
Right.
I would be interesting to see what he can do. It just makes me worried because he's known to coach small ball.
Yeah,
that's the only thing.
Exactly. Small ball is a thing that he was running down in Houston. I think, honestly, this was the first year that he was really, truly running small ball, because they did have Clint Capella, who is a good rim protector, and he can catch lobs, which Embiid can do. He's not much of a guy that relies on athleticism to jump and catch lobs, but he can stand under the net, and, you're 7'3". I hope you can jump up and catch a lob, Embiid. So, also, shout out to his newborn child, Arthur.
Oh
Mr.
my
Embiid.
gosh, I was so happy when I saw
quick.
that.
I didn't even know he was having a kid.
Nobody
Shout out.
did.
But I just want to make the point that if D'Antoni comes, I want to put to bed the rumors of acquiring James Harden, because number one, you can't trade anybody between Ben Simmons or Embiid, because I don't think, even if we were to do that, I don't think that gets us over the hump to getting to the finals, because James Harden is an iso ball player. He likes to dribble, put up shots. He does get assists, which, I think maybe him and Embiid could work, but I'd rather have Ben Simmons, because I think D'Antoni...
I definitely don't think him and Simmons would work at all. I think him and Embiid would, but I also don't think D'Antoni can coach a player like Embiid.
No, James Harden and Ben Simmons would make absolutely no sense, because they both need
But
the
it's
ball.
also Philadelphia, so it probably would happen.
They also drafted Markelle Fultz and, didn't select
Horford.
Jason Tatum and signed Tatum, Al Horford, and let go Jimmy Butler. So the 76ers have done way, way more worse things than what could possibly be between James Harden and Ben Simmons. But James Harden is going to apparently be a free agent in 2022. He's going to be 33. The Sixers aren't going to have the cap room because, God forbid if they still have Al Horford and
Could you imagine?
and Tobias Harris. They just won't have the cap room. So just put to bed of James Harden coming here. But I was watching NBA TNT or the First Take with Stephen A. and Max Kellerman, is that perhaps that Ben Simmons can possibly become a jump shooter with D'Antoni, because maybe D'Antoni could be the Ben Simmons whisperer who can get him to do things that he needs to do.
And that's what I said last week. Yeah.
So I did see that report. So I'm hoping that is a possibility, because this game is full of shooters. You have to be able to shoot the basketball to win NBA games.
It's not like you're playing in a Michael Jordan or Larry Bird era
You can't
anymore.
just get to the rack. You're not Bill Russell back in 1962 against the Lakers, getting to the rack and just dunking on people. You can do that at times. You get a full head of steam and get to the rack, Ben Simmons, but you have to shoot. So hopefully, if we do get D'Antoni, he can get James. I keep wanting to say James Harden. Does that mean he's coming to Philly?
Right, it might be a sixth sense.
But yeah, Ben Simmons, hopefully him and D'Antoni can get on the same page and hopefully get the ball moving on a jump shot, because once he does get a regular jump shot, you don't have to be Klay Thompson, Steph Curry.
No.
But if you can get maybe a Kawhi Leonard jump shot to where you can get that mid-range game, you get the mid-range game down first. I'll take that over the threes, okay? Because if you're looking at the NBA playoffs right now, a lot of guys shoot the three ball, but a lot of guys miss the three ball. But if you come in just a little bit, you get the 18 to 20 footer going, they have to respect you there, and then you can jump out to the 3-point line. So hopefully that can work. They say ownership is heavily involved. Can we trust ownership of the 76ers? No, we cannot.
You can't trust any ownership in Philadelphia.
We've seen what's been happening since the process years, and we honestly, even before Josh Harris, we've seen what they did with AI, and AI didn't have that much help either. So I don't know what's going to happen with the ownership and getting honestly a good coach. Ty Lue is still interested. He said he wants to be the guy to get Embiid and Simmons to work together and get them over the hump.
I would love that. I'm taking either one of them. I think they're both really good top candidates. I just think they're very different, and I do agree with you. I think I said this last week on the podcast that the good thing about D'Antoni and Ben Simmons, he could really give Ben Simmons that kind of jump shot. He could teach Ben Simmons that it's not just a dribble, drive, and dunk game. Because realistically, if you're watching the playoffs right now, those teams that are just dribble and drive and dunk, for example, example, the Bucks and Giannis and the Philadelphia Sixers and Joel and Ben, they're eliminated. You have the small guards. You have the guards running around, driving in, getting under the big guys, the guards that can really shoot a three. That's the Miami Heat, and that's the Boston Celtics. Those are both in the Eastern Conference. And not saying that Ben Simmons is going to be this lights-out shooter, but maybe D'Antoni can help with that. The only problem with him, for me, my worry is Joel Embiid. I don't necessarily know if he would be the best for Joel Embiid, but either or, I think both of them would be good options.
And, of course, we see the rumor mill that the Sixers are open to trading players. Who knows what that means? They say that they're not going to trade Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. I pray to God that they won't. I see rumors of Buddy Hield. I see rumors of Chris Paul.
I would love Buddy Hield or Chris Paul, actually.
We're about to go into the NBA coaching carousel. I know it's a little bit farther in our notes, but the Thunder apparently are going to go into a rebuild. They don't possibly think that they have the team to contend. I mean, honestly, that's kind of smart for them because they can have their own picks, which can be a high lottery pick for themselves. And, of course, that Paul George trade where they got about 25,000 first-round picks. So they'll have a pick if they do, quote, tank. They could trade Chris Paul for picks. So if we do acquire Chris Paul for the 76ers, they would have to be a 21st overall pick that we have this coming
and
in
Al
the
Horford.
NBA
You
draft.
can take Al Horford.
They could take Al Horford. They could take Tobias Harris. They could take either one. Someone has to go because we have to match up the contracts. That's how NBA trades work. So I'm interested to see what that says. Ty Lue, we're talking about coming to Philadelphia. He's also possibly going to the New Orleans Pelicans. He has history with David Griffin and the Cleveland Cavaliers. But with the New Orleans Pelicans, he would have to develop talent.
And I don't see Ty Lue as being that coach. We kind of said it before. He's coached LeBron James. I think he is more of a coach that has experience with stars, and that's why I like him in Philadelphia because Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons aren't superstars right now, but they have the potential to be, and I think that Ty Lue is used to working in that environment with big-name players, so he could do that. Now, a team like the Pelicans, you can say Zion Williamson is set out to be a star, but we really haven't seen it yet. He hasn't been healthy enough for us to really explore that.
B.I. would be the biggest star right now.
So I just really don't think that Ty Lue would be a good fit for the Pelicans because I don't think he's necessarily a team that's going to, quote-unquote, rebuild and make these young guys get better.
Jumping over from the New Orleans Pelicans, you have the Pacers, who could be a team that is also rebuilding because they don't know what Victor Oladipo is going to do. He's going to be a free agent. He could leave. They do have Sabonis and Miles Turner and Malcolm Brogdon, so I feel like they're more of a middle-of-the-pack kind of team. They are apparently interviewed over 20 people for this position. I don't know how interviewing over 20 people can help you find the person that you want. Apparently the bigger names are David Yeager, who used to coach the Kings, and Chauncey Billups, who's been rumored to coach and been rumored to be a GM, and he's been on ESPN for a lot of years.
I know some Sixers fans are liking Chauncey Billups a lot, but I don't really... It's weird because I feel like the Pacers come out with a new narrative every single week. Like before, we kind of talked about, Becky Hammon was an option for them, and I haven't heard her name in weeks.
That's what I'm saying.
And now it's these new people. So it's who really knows what's going on with Indiana Pacers at this point.
And then we mentioned the Thunder, how they're possibly looking at a rebuild. They have interviewed people I've never even heard of, with David Vanderpool and Will Hurdy. Apparently Will Hurdy's with the Spurs, so he comes from the pop tree. They're looking at a first-time coach. That's understandable because they're going to have a young team. So they're trying to get as many picks as they can. How many picks could they possibly get to build a star team? We shall see. And then they're looking to trade Chris Paul and Steven Adams. Chris Paul, rumors to Philadelphia, maybe even Milwaukee. Steven Adams, I don't really know where he could possibly go because
I feel like he would be on a team like the Chicago Bulls or... I don't even know. Not a team that's like the Philadelphia Sixers or even the Indiana Pacers, just because...
One possible team that I think could be it that has picks that could still use a center, but they need a center that can grab rebounds and just put up, a little bit of points would be the Boston Celtics. They have picks. I mean, I know they have Tyson Enes Kanter, but Steven Adams is head and heels over them. They possibly have the cap space because they don't have that many guys that they have to pay right now. So if they're looking to win now, and if anything, you saw what Enes Kanter and David Tice did last night. Steven Adams is a great rebounder. So I feel like
that'll be interesting.
That's what I'm saying. So I feel like that could be a contending team, because he could go to like Detroit or he can go to Sacramento, a team that could take on his salary. But, Steven Adams I feel like he's a very solid center that doesn't get enough credit. So I feel like he could go to a contending team that could possibly use a center like that, but also not need a center to be also all what they need. Going over to another Western team would be the Houston Rockets. They're possibly looking at Sam Cassell from the LA Clippers. Apparently, Sam Cassell has been rumored to be a great head coach and the next big thing in the head coaching carousel for many years. He's been learning with Doc Rivers. He's had Ty Lue to also bounce off and learn things. So I would be interested to see how Sam Cassell could do. But also they're looking at Jeff Van Gundy, a former NBA coach. I think the biggest thing for the Houston Rockets are that they have to not rebuild, but they need to rework things because you can't. Small ball is not going to do it because the NBA might like to put up a lot of threes.
They have no defense either.
Exactly.
They really don't have any defense. And when you're playing a team like the LA Lakers and LeBron James and Anthony Davis, you're going to need some defense.
Yeah, Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee.
Exactly.
Even if you played the Clippers, I know the Clippers don't have that much big in size, but Zubac isn't no slouch, and then Kawhi Leonard and Paul George who can grab rebounds. So they need to start grabbing power forwards or centers that can be athletic to where you can shoot threes, but also be able to catch lobs and also defend the rim.
Take Al Horford.
Yeah, you can have Al Horford all you want. I'll take Robert Covington. Give me back.
Honestly,
Covington.
yeah,
Give me Covington
I would
back. A nice
easily.
3-and-D shooter. I know
Yeah.
I couldn't really stand Robert Covington because my issue with Covington is that he was so up and down and he could never
Well,
finish
the thing
at
about
the rim.
Covington when he was here too, he was a starter. He was relied on a lot, especially when Joel Embiid wasn't healthy his first year when Joel only played half that season. So Rocco was kind of relied on. If he was on the Sixers team now, he's not going to be that number one shooter.
Right. So hopefully you can take out Horford and we'll take Robert Covington and we'll make the money work. I'll throw in $5 if I need to. The one guy that did come off the market to the Chicago Bulls, which I think was a great hire, was Billy Donovan.
I'm excited for that because we saw what Billy Donovan could do this year with OKC. He really brought that team that had really no expectations to a 7-game series with the Houston Rockets. Of course, he had Chris Paul, but I think the Bulls are a team that they're very young right now, and if they get pieces, if they get draft picks, that they can be good in a few years. And I think that Billy Donovan's going to help them out. I think it's a great pickup by Chicago, and I'm excited to see what he does there.
Zach LaVine, Kobe White, Lauri Markkanen.
Ryan Arcidiacono.
They have some players, and if he could get that Thunder team who thought no one was getting to the playoffs, then I believe he can absolutely get the Bulls to the playoffs. And it's a coach that has experience because he's coached Russ, he's coached Paul George, he's coached KD, he's coached Melo, Steven Adams, Dennis Schroeder, Chris Paul. The names go on and on. So it's not some coach that they got from college that hasn't really coached anyone of a star atmosphere because Zach LaVine is that guy. He is a baller. And
He's going to be very good. I think he can be
I
maybe
think
not
he's
as good as
already
Jason
very good.
Tatum.
I think
he can be a
good.
type of Jason Tatum, clutch type player, knocks down shots, is good on the dribble drive. I think he's going to be, that number one scoring asset for the Chicago Bulls. I do think that they need a little bit more, but I think that's going to come from drafts because I think they're a team that is young, and I think they're going to build up to be good in the next few years.
Hey, I like Kobe White. I
do
Zach
like Kobe
LaVine.
White
I
a
like
lot.
Lauri Markkanen. I think if they get one more scorer, one more guy, more of a forward kind of person because they have
Tobias Harris, go ahead.
Yeah, shoot, go ahead, take Tobias. That's okay. He'll work perfectly fine for you. I would unload them contracts and restart with the Sixers with Embiid and Simmons all day. From a team that has had history with the 76ers, this Eastern Conference Finals, the Miami Heat, who have Jimmy Butler, and the Celtics, who have Jason Tatum, two guys that could have been Sixers at once upon a time, and one who was a 76er. The Heat dropped Game 5. The series is now 3-2. Bam Adebayo, I was honestly kind of surprised. He said that game was on him. Did you catch any of that game last night?
I did, and it was actually interesting because I was flipping between that and the Stanley Cup last night, but before the game started, they said the Celtics, this is going to be their best basketball playing tonight because it's win or go home for them right now. So the Heat, I don't think necessarily came out. The Heat always come out very good. I mean, they have Jimmy Butler. He has that dog mentality. But I think that the Celtics, like it was said on the pregame show, that they came out playing their best basketball because that's exactly what they needed to do. Now, I still think the Heat are going to win this series, but that was the game where the Celtics really just had to show up or they went home. So I just think it was one of those things where, Boston played some of their best basketball. The Heat were kind of caught off guard, and now you're going to go into a Game 6, and if the Celtics tie this up and we got a Game 7, that's going to be a really, really good thing to see.
That would be, what, 3 or 4 Game 7 series this NBA postseason?
All right, the Jazz, the OKC, the
Clippers. And Nuggets. That would be...
And the 4th.
Yeah, that would be
right?
3. Yeah, so if this would possibly be the 4th. I hope it happens because that just means more and more games.
More basketball.
More basketball, and importantly for the LA Lakers, because hopefully they go to close out the Nuggets tonight. That means more rest for Mr. LeBron James and Anthony Davis. The Lakers look out to close the series. Dwight Howard, he channeled his inner Kobe saying the job's not finished. You guys, I like that mindset. RIP Mamba. You got 5 more wins. You got to win 5 more games to be NBA champions. So the job's not done. I like it. I loved how LeBron locked up Jamal Murray. Now there was one foul that Jamal Murray he should have got called that LeBron committed, but in crunch time, LeBron said, "Let me take Jamal Murray." I just want to know, Caleb, why couldn't Giannis or Kawhi do that in either of the series that they lost?
Yeah, Giannis actually shied away from locking up Jimmy Butler, by the way, he's our Defensive Player of the Year though. Our Defensive Player of the Year is shying away from guarding
Same thing with Kawhi.
one of the best players in the
Player of
playoffs.
the Year too.
Now, Kawhi Leonard doesn't want to lock up Jamal Murray. I really don't know. I just, LeBron's one of the best players to ever play this game. He's one of the greatest of all time. So I think that's his instinct. And at 35 years old, LeBron is insane. I love watching him in the playoffs. I'm so happy that he's back. And Jamal Murray has also been exciting to watch. Now, I think the Denver Nuggets are a really interesting surprise. I thought the Lakers were just kind of completely steamroll over them. And I think the Lakers are the hardest team they've played. But I also think Denver's putting up a really good fight.
Yeah, some people are saying we got the Lakers right where we want because they're down 3-1.
And how about the buzzer beater game when AD hit that 3?
Yeah.
How about that game?
That game, I was watching it, and I was sitting here on my couch, and I had my little pup, Mr. Griffey, with me. And he was just chilling right next to me, and I'm sitting here watching the game. I got my hands on my face because I'm waiting because the Lakers didn't have a timeout.
It's
didn't. 2.1 seconds left.
The weird thing was when they came out of that timeout, Anthony Davis was hot. Him and Jokic, but Anthony Davis scored 11 straight points in that 4th quarter. I'm like, okay, the ball is definitely going to AD. They didn't give the ball to AD. Luckily, they were able to inbound it. AD hits that clutch 3. And I just think, in that situation, you should give the ball to Anthony Davis just because he was the hot hand. He was literally carrying your team in the 4th quarter. But nevertheless, he's the one that won it. It was a crazy game. Jokic was absolutely insane with that one tip. And I was like, oh my gosh, this game. But, that's what playoff basketball is all about.
I'm all for it because, like you said, Anthony Davis, he hit the clutch shot. But it looked like they double-teamed LeBron, and then AD went over the top past LeBron. They gave it to him, and he hits the 3. They win the game. And then Jamal Murray, he's becoming, I want to say, I don't want to say top 5, but he's pushing for a top 5 point guard position with these playoffs because if you see some of these shots that this man is making, and he's not afraid of the moment. Some players in the 4th quarter, they shy from it. They don't want the heat. Jamal Murray wants all the smoke. He wants to take the heat. He doesn't care if obviously he cares if they lose, but he doesn't care if he has to take every shot. He will literally do it, where some players don't want to do that. And I'm happy to say that I'm more of a Jamal Murray fan because before I liked Jamal Murray, I was like, all right, he's okay. He's not a superstar, but he has moments in the regular season.
Flashes.
Yeah, he has flashes where I'm like, okay, I could see him becoming one of those guys. But this postseason, you got me. You sucked me in because every time he has the ball is in it's in crunch time because the Nuggets hang around. They were down the other night. They're down 12. They're down by 5. They're down 12. They're down by 1. They're up by 1. They're down by 3. They keep around. They stay around. And the biggest thing that the Lakers did was they got Jokic and Paul Millsap in foul trouble to where they can't be as aggressive as they want because if they have one more foul, they're out the game.
Yeah.
One key note I do want to make about the last game is that AD did low-key roll his ankle, but he looks good to play today. I think he would be played anyway unless the injury was significant.
And I think for the Denver Nuggets, one person that really needs to show up, especially in this game, is Michael Carter-Williams. I know that Jamal Murray is carrying your team. Jr. Oh my gosh.
6 is still on your mind.
Wow, that just really Hold on, I gotta take a step back because I really just said Michael Porter Jr. You know what I meant. Anyway, he really needs to step up because I think especially in this series he's kind of been on and off. I think in the Clippers he was doing very well. Now Jamal Murray's probably gonna score his average 30 or 40. Nikola Jokic is always there as well, but I think that they need that other guy to really kind of step in and beat this team because it's really win or go home for them. I do think the Lakers are not going to take it tonight. I think the Lakers lose this game, and I think they go one more and then they win the series just because I think, the Denver Nuggets never shy away from the moment. You have Jamal Murray, you have Nikola Jokic, like I said before, and they've just seemed to do the impossible, honestly, in this playoffs.
Now, I do want to give a few shout-out to some of the Lakers that have stepped up. Dwight Howard. A lot of people did not even want Dwight Howard on their team. They thought he was washed up and done. He goes out there. He's grabbing offensive rebound, high screens, lob city. He's grabbing. He's posting a double-double on Jokic. He's manning Jokic up. He's not afraid of the moment. I think he's really been motivated to play. I'm so happy to see Dwight Howard up. Also, I want to quit the slander that I have seen on Twitter between who's had a better prime, Dwight Howard or Jokic. Jokic is great. The Joker's great, right? Like, don't get me wrong.
Everybody seems to forget Dwight Howard's Superman years.
Thank
Everybody seems
Thank you, Kayla. Talk to the people.
Growing up, I actually was a huge Dwight Howard fan. I remember when I was younger, I actually wanted to be an Orlando Magic fan because I loved him and Steve Van Gundy. And my dad was like, no, I didn't raise you like that. You're a Philadelphia fan. Thank goodness he said that. But Dwight Howard, he's not a shooter. He's not a good free throw shooter. But the time he was in, he absolutely dominated. When I think the game back then was more of
a
center game, more of a post game, more of a post present. Wasn't as much shooters around the whole entire arc. But you can't sit here and tell me that Jokic is above and beyond Dwight Howard. Go watch some film on Superman and who he used to be back in those years, 2012, 2011, please, and then actually evaluate, because we're not comparing Jokic and Dwight Howard now. Of course, right now, Jokic is better than Dwight Howard, but if you're looking overall centers and careers, and he carried that team into the playoffs, come on, people. Dwight Howard didn't have a lot of help in the Orlando Magic. He was that whole entire team. I loved watching him growing up, and that's also the reason why my favorite number is 12, because Dwight Howard was 12 on the Magic.
Don't forget, also, he won three Defensive Player of the Years. He led the league in rebounding for so many years. So please put some respect on Dwight Howard. And the game was different back then, too.
Yeah,
it's a different game.
It was different. It wasn't as much shooting.
Most of you young whippersnappers don't even know how the game used to really be played. Y'all are just so caught up in shooting threes and dunking and everything. It used to be a way different game around between 2005 to, I want to say 2013 is when we started seeing a lot more threes. KCP. The only man I know to play a basketball game with a ankle monitor on him when he was going through some off-the-court stuff has been making a great impact on this team. I'm not saying he's going to be a Hall of Famer, but he's one of those guys that are drafted high. I think he was drafted number 8 by the Detroit Pistons, and he's more of a role player kind of guy, but that's where he makes his impact. You can't expect him to go out there and drop 35 and 8 every night. But he can give you 13, 5, and 3 a night, and that's what you need. He's hitting clutch shots for this Laker team, a team that I thought this year kept needed shooters. They brought in J.R. Smith. They brought in Deion Waiters. They brought in the Morris brother. I always forget every week.
Markieff is on the Lakers.
Markieff Morris. You know what I mean?
Because Marcus is on the Clippers.
Yes. Markieff. Okay. But yeah, KCP's been making an impact, but he's always been great on defense. His long wingspan, the way he can defend some of these smaller guards and even some of the smaller power forwards and small forwards, he's been making an impact. And of course, you have playoff Rondo. A lot of Lakers fans and even myself were like, why do they have Rondo? I see why they have Rondo, because he's very high IQ. Him and LeBron have some type of chemistry that I really haven't seen with LeBron have on another team with an older player. You know what I mean? Of course he had it with D Wade and Kyrie, but I'm saying a bench guy to where he can give Rondo the ball and he can trust Rondo. He's out there, he's making jumpers. Rondo's making jumpers. I remember when Rondo was with the Celtics, and then when he really started to bounce around the league with the Bulls and the Mavericks and the Kings.
Celtics Rondo was my favorite.
Yeah, he's out there. He's doing the same move to where he looks like he's driving to the hole. He's about to dish it to Anthony Davis, and then he lays it in with the left. Beautiful play.
How about his defense, though? He stole the ball 3 times in crunch time against Denver. 3 times. Mm-hmm. Rondo again. Like, it was just crazy, and it was so good to see because in those moments, he was defending Jamal Murray. You need that. You need a player like that, and that's exactly what he delivered.
And congratulations to playoff Rondo, who's passed Scottie Pippen for 8th all-time on playoff assists. I saw he did pass Jordan, Kobe in the last few games or so, but he's going to keep climbing them. The one person he more than definitely will not climb because he's on his team is LeBron. So
LeBron's second, right?
Yeah, LeBron's I think second or third now. So Rondo, you can keep going and going until you hit a certain limit.
I don't think he'll beat LeBron. I think I don't know how many more years Rondo's going to be in the league either. So it'll be interesting to see, but I definitely think he's a really good pickup, and I'm excited for this game tonight. I cannot wait.
Now we're going over to our football picks. We didn't get to do our Dolphins-Jags picks, but the Dolphins, Fitzmagic.
Yeah,
did you see what he was wearing after the game?
He's a nut, if I'm going to be honest with you. He's very funny.
He's a Harvard man.
He's funny. I picked the Jags, actually, to win this game, and they did not, obviously. The Dolphins won. That was kind of just a game where I was like, it's a typical Thursday night game. It's 2 bad teams. It's not a very good, exciting to watch. I thought the Jags would win just because the past 2 games, I think they put up really good numbers. They were scoring high in week 1 and week 2, but nevertheless, it's a Thursday night game. Now we actually get into the chunk of the weekend, and it's going to be a good weekend.
So, starting off with our 1 o'clock games, we have the Washington football team versus the Cleveland Browns. Give me the Cleveland Browns. If they continue to do what they did against the Cincinnati Bengals, was have Baker Mayfield be a game manager and then have a few throws to where Odell and Jarvis Landry and Austin Hooper can make some plays. And then if you have the lead, this is what they did. So they ran Nick Chubb a majority of the game, but the closing back for the Cleveland Browns against the Cincinnati Bengals was Kareem Hunt. So they're becoming a great 1-2 punch. I think the Cleveland Browns win this game. I think they win it by at least a touchdown because I feel like the Browns have the offense to where they can manhandle Washington, and Dwayne Haskins and everybody, they're very solid. They'll get a few pop plays, but I don't expect Washington to do anything significant.
It's definitely the Browns. I don't really know how you could pick the Washington football team in this game. I think that the Browns had a really good showing against the Bengals, and I also think that Washington is not as good of a team as Cincinnati, so I'm going to take Baker Mayfield and Cleveland. I think they win by at least 10 points. I think this is a chance for Baker to really show what he's got. He's going to get a lot of pressure, though, because that Washington line is pretty good with Chase Young. He's probably going to get sacked at least once in this game, but I'm going to take Cleveland all the way.
Next game, we have the Vegas Raiders going back to the New England Patriots. This is a tough game because I sit at the Vegas Raiders and it's like, who are they? Are they a team that is possibly going to make a run, or are they going to be a very average team? Because if they're very average, then obviously you would want to pick New England. But if they are that team that can possibly beat up on the Saints and beat up on the Chiefs and beat up on the Chargers and everybody else, possibly thinking like, wow, maybe they are actually that good. I'm sticking with Cam Newton and Bill Belichick. I like the way they played. They just put up 30 against the Seahawks, and they're playing at home. I don't think the Raiders can really match what they do. The Raiders don't really scare me offensively, and even though the Patriots are missing a lot of guys on defense, they still are able to lock down certain people, so I don't think they're going to allow Josh Jacobs to beat them or Derek Carr.
I am as well going to take the Patriots, but kind of going off of what you said, I think if the Raiders win this game, this is the game to really show people that, they are a force to be reckoned with and that they are serious this year. If they are able to pull out a win against Bill Belichick and Cam Newton, then you got my praise, Las Vegas Raiders, because that's 2 back-to-back really good wins. I still am going to take New England, though, just based off the game against the Seattle Seahawks. They almost won that one, and I think they're going to come back with vengeance and win this week.
Next up, we have the Rams and Bills. This is honestly kind of a toss-up because the Bills are looking pretty good. The Rams just squashed the Eagles, and their offense is looking pretty good. I'm rolling with Josh Allen and the Bills because I like the way Josh Allen has been balling out. Stephon Diggs has done this thing, even though they have to go up against Jalen Ramsey. But I trust the Bills more than the Rams. I'm not a big fan of West Coast teams having to make trips back to the East on back-to-back trips, you know what I mean? So those are long flights. I think I'm going to go ahead and roll with the Bills.
And I'm going to disagree with you this week. I'm going to take the Los Angeles Rams because I think the Rams have been very, very surprising this year. And I think they're a little bit more consistent than the Buffalo Bills. I think for some reason Josh Allen, he's a good quarterback, but I also think his inconsistency is a problem. Now, Jalen Ramsey kind of annoys me sometimes because he, will miss a complete tackle and then try to wrap somebody up and be like, oh, the man. I'm like, dude, you just let that guy gain 20 yards, but okay. Anyway, I'm taking the LA Rams. I am very impressed with them, how they play Dallas, how they played the Eagles, and I think they're going to win as well this week. I think they go 3-0.
All right, jumping to our next game, we have the Tennessee Titans versus the Minnesota Vikings. I'm going with the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans look very solid so far this season. The Minnesota Vikings, I don't know what is wrong, but they do not look all together.
Kirk Cousins is wrong.
Yeah,
that's what's been wrong for the past 2 years.
I don't understand because I feel like he gets talked up in ways where he could be the lead guy and be one of these top tier quarterbacks, but then he looks very average.
He's the definition of inconsistent.
Yeah, I don't understand.
He is the definition of inconsistent.
But why? I don't understand because he has the weapons, he has the team, and
he's just not that good of a quarterback.
He continues to fail. Maybe the Washington football team were right about not sticking with him.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Titans as well. I picked the Vikings last week, and they just disappointed me. I think it was last week, or maybe it was week 1, whatever. I think that, Kirk Cousins, once again, is showing that he's not a reliable quarterback. He has weapons. He has Adam Thielen back there still. So I don't know what's up with him. I don't know why he can't throw the deep ball or why he can't get his team going, but you're the center of Minnesota, and you're not doing very well, and Tennessee is going to run all over you this week.
Next, we have the San Francisco 49ers who are banged up versus the New York Giants. Give me the Giants after. I think they get their first win. I think the 49ers are so banged up. They have Nick McMullen's a new quarterback starting who, honestly, the last time I seen him start, he wasn't really surprising me at all. So give me the Giants. They get their first win. They are going to miss probably Sterling Shepard this week due to injury, but let's see how they roll. Maybe they can pull off a win. Hopefully, but I just think it's because the 49ers are so banged up and they have to get used to playing with a new quarterback.
I'm going to take the Giants as well, actually. I said earlier this week if Jimmy G was back and able to play, I would take the 49ers, but he's not. He's not playing on Sunday, so I'm going to take New York. Now, I know Saquon Barkley is not there, but they do have Devontae Freeman. They have him. Daniel Jones is still a little bit reliable, so I'm going to go with New York. It's going to not be a very good game, so.
Another possibly not great game that we have is we have the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Give me the Eagles. I think they get this one. I think they win by at least 6 points. I think hopefully the defense can confuse Joe Burrow and hopefully the Eagles offense can steadily do something positive. So give me this Philadelphia Eagles over the Cincinnati Bengals.
I am actually going to take the Cincinnati Bengals, and as much as that hurts my heart as being a Philadelphia fan, I just really like their performance against the Cleveland Browns last week. They put up 30 points. I think this is a chance for Joe Burrow to really show what he's got. The Eagles aren't a very good team. They do not have a good secondary at all. So I think that the Bengals could really pull out this one. The only thing that worries me about Cincinnati is the Eagles' front four. That's going to be a lot of pressure on Joe Burrow. But everything else, the Eagles just don't look good. Maybe this is the game where they can get back on track. But the Bengals showed me a lot of promise last week, and I think they're going to bring that into week 3. Give me Cincinnati.
Philly, please just play smart.
Yeah, please win. I don't want the Eagles to lose, but realistically, I think they're going to.
Now we have the Chicago Bears versus the Atlanta Falcons. Give me the Falcons playing at home in the Dome. I think they can finally get a win because I feel like they have been honestly so close to getting it. They should have won last week. Maybe week 1 would have been an L no matter what against Seattle, but they should have won last week. They should know that they were going to win last week, and they just honestly didn't execute anything an onside kick return. So give me the Falcons.
I'm going to take the Falcons as well. The Bears are just terrible. Mitch Trubisky is just completely
They
awful.
haven't really played anybody decent. Honestly, they haven't played anyone as good as Matt Ryan and the, quote, Falcons, even though they're 0-2.
They played, who did they play? The Giants?
They played the Giants and Detroit.
Right.
They would have lost to Detroit because DeAndre Swift dropped the touchdown that would have made them lose the game.
Yeah.
And then the Giants, I'm not saying the Giants would have won. I think they would have won that game no matter what. But then Saquon gets hurt. Of course they're going to win that game.
The Falcons put up a very promising
They put over 30 points in the past 2
game against
games.
the Cowboys, and the Cowboys are a very good team, especially on paper. So give me the Falcons this week. I just don't trust Mitch Trubisky at all.
We have the Houston Texans and the Pittsburgh Steelers wrapping up the 1 o'clock games. Give me Pittsburgh playing at home, Big Ben. Now, they didn't look as great against Denver, but that Pittsburgh defense against Deshaun Watson and I don't even know. I guess, Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb and David Johnson. Nah, I'll take the Steelers defense over the Houston offense any day of the week. You just need Pittsburgh to be able to put up some points.
Yeah, give me Pittsburgh. I'm not having any confidence in this Houston Texans team right now. I think, unfortunately for Deshaun Watson, he has absolutely no help. Their defense isn't very good either. I'm going to take Big Ben this week, and I think it's not going to be a blowout, but I think they win by at least a touchdown.
All right, Kayla, go ahead and kick off our 4 o'clock and later games. Who do we got?
We got the Panthers versus Chargers. Now, Chargers most likely starting with Justin Herbert this week. I'm going to take the Chargers just because I think Justin Herbert showed a lot of promise, especially against the Kansas City Chiefs team who is very good. And the Panthers, they don't have Christian McCaffrey. They don't look good at all. So I'm going to take the Chargers this week.
That's what we're going to differ. Give me the Carolina Panthers. I know that Christian McCaffrey is hurt, but I feel like because the Panthers have Teddy Bridgewater, I feel like they've done way less, honestly. And also, now that the Panthers have some type of film on Justin Herbert, he's possibly going to see some things that he has yet to see as an NFL quarterback. So I'll take the Panthers as possibly an upset over the LA Chargers.
Yeah, these 405 games aren't very good, though. We got the Jets versus the Colts. I'm going to take Indianapolis. This is going to be a terrible game, honestly.
Yeah, Phillip Rivers looks old. The Jets plainly aren't that good. Apparently they're having protests about fire Adam Gase and change the ownership. Typical Jets stuff. At least we're not Jets fans. So give me the Indianapolis Colts and their old quarterback, Phillip Rivers.
And actually going into a really, really good game Sunday, 425, we got the Cowboys versus the Seahawks. I am going to take Seattle this week. I just think they're absolutely bowling out. But I do think that this is going to be a shootout on both sides. I think it's going to be a very offensive matchup because I think, the Cowboys defense is struggling a little bit. And the Seahawks defense just haven't really gotten it together yet. I know they do have Jamal Adams now, but I think it's going to be a shootout. I think it's going to be like a 35-30 game. I think it's going to be very high scoring, but give me Seattle this week.
Definitely give me dangerous DK Metcalf and Jamal Adams of the Seattle Seahawks taking down Dak, Zeke, and Amari Cooper of the Dallas Cowboys. I just think it's flat out like Russell Wilson is just on pure fire right now. Ain't no one being able to put him out anytime soon, I think. So I think Dallas goes up there, and unfortunately they catch the L, which is, well, if the Eagles win and the Cowboys lose and the Redskins lose, the Washington football team loses and the Giants lose, well, guess what? Once again, the NFC East is the NFC least. Moving on.
The Lions versus the Cardinals. Give me the Cardinals. The Lions have not been very good this year, but Kyler Murray, D-Hop, showing me some promising things. I'm excited to see what Arizona does. This should be an interesting game. I'm just excited to see the combination between D-Hop and Kyler.
Yeah, you have the Arizona Cardinals and, well, Kyler Murray, who's also having a low-key MVP season. I think they're going to go over and steamroll Detroit Lions. Detroit, I'm sorry, just really don't have anyone that can purely stay up with the offense that the Cardinals have.
And last of 425, we got Bucks versus Broncos. Drew Lock is hurt. Give me Tampa Bay Bucks. This is going to be a blowout, in my opinion. I think Tom Brady's going to run all over this Denver team.
I don't think Tom Brady is going to be actually running.
Well, not literally running, Austin.
I got to poke some fun. But, yeah, definitely give me the Tampa Bay Bucks over the Denver Broncos. Like you just said, Drew Lock is hurt. They don't have Von Miller. And they also lost Cortland Sutton. So it's really they signed Blake Bortles, but I don't think he's even starting. I don't even know who's honestly starting for them.
He makes his return.
So they're not really going to have any type of offense. Their defense is so, yeah, the Bucks, they better go up there. And I think they can possibly win by 2 touchdowns.
I agree. And kind of going on to the next 2 night games that are going to be absolutely phenomenal, in my opinion. Sunday at 8:20, we got the Packers versus the Saints. Austin, who are you taking?
I'm going to take the New Orleans Saints because they're playing at home. I think Devontae Adams being out is a big time. I think Drew Brees is let alone playing at home with Alvin Kamara. I think they love to play at home. I don't think they're much of a road team. So give me the New Orleans Saints playing at home.
And I'm going to disagree with you there. I'm going to take the Green Bay Packers. I think not having Michael Thomas and Drew Brees is going to be a huge loss for them. And honestly, Aaron Rodgers has looked really good this year. I'm excited to see this game, though. It's 2 veteran quarterbacks,
they're missing the top 2 targets.
They are, but
Adams and
it
Thomas.
is 2 veteran quarterbacks that are kind of in the same, not same realm as Tom Brady, but same time frame as Tom Brady.
Old men.
Basically, no. But I'm very excited to see this. It's interesting because Sunday night's kind of, the veteran quarterbacks matchup, and then Monday night's the younger quarterbacks matchup in the Chiefs versus Ravens. Monday at 8:15. You got Lamar Jackson. You got Patrick Mahomes. Who you got?
Give me the Baltimore Ravens. That defense is alone outstanding. I didn't think they were really going to be as good as they were the year before because, I mean, they just let go Earl Thomas. So I didn't think they were going to be that great. But I'm taking the Ravens because the offense is, still clicking between Lamar Jackson, Hollywood Brown, and even their tight ends are looking very good. So give me the Ravens, and I think they not slow down and beat up the Chiefs, but I think because the Chiefs aren't playing at home, I think the Chiefs kind of come back down to earth a little bit. I think they drop this game, but I still think it could be high scoring. I think it could be like a 35, 32,
I think it's
28.
higher than that.
I think I would bet the over if anyone's a betting man.
You know, do you remember the Rams versus Chiefs games last
That
year?
Game was phenomenal.
Where it was like 51-49. I think this game is going to be very similar. I think this game is going to be very high scoring. I don't know about 50 points because that's a little crazy, but I think we're going to see a shootout once again. I think it's going to be a great offensive matchup as well. I'm going to take the Ravens just for the pure fact that the Chiefs did not look good against the Chargers. They only won by 3. So I think that, the Chiefs played a team that wasn't very good. A quarterback, granted, they didn't really know, didn't watch film on. But I'm going to take Baltimore this week. It's going to be a great Monday night matchup. I can't wait to block everything out of my schedule and just sit down and watch this.
Those are our NFL picks for week 3. We're hoping to, honestly, I need to jump you because you got me up by 1 game.
Let's go.
You're 20-9, I'm 19-10.
So you need this week you need the Panthers to win or the Saints to win.
Yeah, I just need
or the
one
Eagles
game.
or the Bills.
Yeah.
So we disagreed on a few this week.
Yeah, that's fine by me. That's how you make progress. That's how you make strides in picking games because if you're going to pick the same teams over and over, then what's the point of picking games, right?
It's no fun.
All right, Kayla, it's about time we start winding down.
Oh, gosh.
Here it's officially 3 o'clock p.m. and it looks like the sun has come out. So
A little bit. Nice, some blue. I almost said blue clouds. Some blue sky and some nice white puffy clouds.
Are you okay today? Did
Yeah,
you have
good.
your coffee?
I had it this morning, but a little bit. I got to go run to Dunkin' right after this, I'm telling you.
Maybe even Starbucks tea yourself a strawberry refresher.
I know. Remember those? I used to be obsessed with those,
days.
everybody.
The good old days.
Yeah.
All right, Kayla, what's your Jersey Minute about today? Go ahead and get your clock out.
All right, so today I'm really just going to rant about Philadelphia sports because the Eagles looked absolutely terrible. I came into this season saying that they're not going to be very good, but I did not expect this. Out of all the teams in the NFL, the Eagles even haven't been the most hit hard team with the injury bug. It's absolutely crazy. Carson Wentz looks terrible, sacked 8 times. The interceptions are becoming a problem. They need to win this week or nobody's going to take them seriously. The Philadelphia Phillies had the team to make the playoffs. They got the coach to get it done. And once again, they're about to come up short because Matt Clinton cannot get it done. If he is not fired, if the Phillies do not make the playoffs after these 2 games, and I don't get a notification on my phone that Matt Clinton is fired, I'm going to be absolutely livid. They need to sign JT. You got rid of Sixto Sanchez. Get JT on the Philadelphia Phillies. I'm excited for the NSL this week. There's going to be a lot of good games. And you know what? The Lakers versus the Nuggets tonight. It's Saturday night. I'm excited for some playoff basketball.
You feel a little bit better after your little
Ooh.
rant on Philadelphia sports.
It's tough. It's tough out here.
Well, breaking news. Former Philly, Hunter Pence, remembering Adam, he is to retire after 14 years.
Oh, I loved Hunter Pence.
Yeah, he's another guy
I have his jersey.
We should have traded him.
I
years ago.
loved Hunter Pence. He always reminded me of Eminem, the rapper. I've always thought they looked alike. Not that it has anything to do with baseball.
That quirky swing that he had, like
He
his
was-
whole stance.
How about the pants all the way up, the socks so
yeah.
high?
And then you trade him to the Giants and it wins the World
Yeah.
Series, of course,
Whatever.
Philadelphia.
Of course.
So, my Jersey Minute, it's the same thing. I'm ranting about Philadelphia sports because it just feels like we cannot have nice things around here. We could have had Jimmy Butler or Jason Tatum for our Philadelphia 76ers, and we don't have either, and we're looking at 2 monster contracts in Tobias Harris and Al Horford. What do? You want to bring in a coach that loves to shoot threes? We don't have the personnel. You want to bring in a coach that has only coached LeBron? What are you going to do? You have the Philadelphia Phillies, who have a beautiful ballpark. You go there, you have a great time at the game when you can have fans. You got Bryce Harper, you got JT Realmuto. They don't want to sign him. What are you going to do? The Philadelphia Eagles, once again, if you drop this game, you better fire Howie Roseman because I understand injuries are part of the game, but how many times you going to bring this man back and he doesn't draft? Look at the draft, people. Do your history. Since 2016 to right now, honestly, since the 2020 draft, we have barely had any people stick to this roster that we have brought in. Okay, I would just want to get that known. And finally, Flyers. I know there's not much hockey news, but it looks like you're the best team in Philadelphia. So whatever you do, get us hyped for next season. I'm not much of a hockey guy, but you're the only ones that can get us to stay at least a little bit, just a little bit of keeping sane, because everyone else wants to drive us insane, where the Flyers drive us just sane. Thank you.
Austin's calling for Howie Roseman's job if they lose against Cincinnati this week, everybody.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Pin it.
Tell me I'm wrong, because
Pin it.
you can keep Doug Peterson. He's a great coach. Don't get me wrong. I would keep Dougie P. But Howie Roseman, okay, he's beautiful with moving the cap, and he had basically one good year in 2017 of bringing guys in on one-year deals, and by the luck of God, everything just panned out. You know what I mean? The starting quarterback went down, and we had the backup quarterback, and you had Alshon, and everything just clicked. But just tell me what he has done since 2017 that warrants his job. Yes, you've made the playoffs, but I've seen coaches make the playoffs like Mike Mularkey with the Tennessee Titans against the Chiefs and then get fired. Okay? So just because you make the playoffs, just because you're middle of the road, doesn't mean you get to keep your job.
I'm keeping Howie Roseman this whole season, and if he doesn't
he
deliver,
and
if
okay.
the Eagles are absolute crap this year, which it seems like they're going to be, then you get rid of him. But that was a good jersey minute. We got some
Whiteside,
terrible.
Derek Barnett.
We got some
Nelson
Philadelphia
Aguilar.
rants.
Come on now.
We're in pain over here. We're in pain over here
I'm
being
hurt.
Philadelphia
I'm
fans.
I'm hurting people.
It's
hurting.
really rough. It doesn't get any better.
And all these other teams get to have nice things. But
I just hope the Phillies...
But the city of Philadelphia is not allowed.
Yeah, I just really hope the Phillies somehow are able to squeak into the playoffs. They got to win these two games. Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola, just pitch 9 innings. You'll be fine. Please, just pitch 9 innings. Do not let the bullpen mess it up. I miss those days.
I really don't even know who even throws complete games anymore.
I think Zach... No, was it Zach Eflin that threw a complete game? I think it was Zach Eflin this season for the Phillies did. But I miss those days where the pitcher would literally pitch like the 7th inning. Ryan Madsen, set up man. Brad Lidge, your closer.
It's the middle of August. You know, the Phillies are in a playoff battle. You throw out number 34, rest in peace, Doc Holliday. He goes out there and throws a complete game.
Oh
10
my
strikeouts,
gosh.
only 1 walk. He might even
the no-hitter.
He might even get a couple of bunts down to move the runners. He might even get a hit, but those were the great old days. Or maybe if you just want to turn back a little bit to 2009 when we traded for Cliff Lee and he's out there throwing complete game losses.
Yeah,
Who's going to go out there and throw a complete game and lose? Not many guys.
The 4 aces and Roy Oswalt, Cole Hamels, Cliff Lee, Roy Halladay. Once again, rest in peace.
The good old days.
I still got that shirt in my closet, and it still fits me. I'll have to pull it out maybe for our next. If the Phillies get into the playoffs, I will wear that shirt next week for a podcast.
You got to put on our social media page. Kayla, tell the people what the social media is.
We have on Instagram right now, Scoring with SNJ. That is actually the Instagram handle, and the end is spelled out AND. Make sure you guys follow that because we're going to be putting all our updates on when our episodes launch. We're going to be putting some teasers on there to get you guys interested to watch these podcasts, to see what's coming up in these episodes. Make sure you go give that a follow, and then our personals are K_Santiago1, my personals, K_Santiago1 on Instagram, and Kayla_Santiago1 on Twitter.
All social media platforms, you have Jonesy Austin 25, JONESY AUCIN 25, and then you have Jonesy Austin 25 on all other social media platforms, like I just said.
Scoring with SNJ, follow it. Make sure we are posting these on YouTube now, and soon we'll be getting some video involved. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. I will also be posting that link in the Instagram bio. Make sure you subscribe to make sure you're in tune with all of our podcasts coming up. This is episode 5. I think this was a good one, and I'm excited to see all the sports we talked about this week. Hopefully not too much disappointment.
Hopefully not too much disappointment, but it's Saturday night. Unfortunately, I got to work, but best believe I'm going to catch that Lakers game when I get home because I need old Bron to close this out and go back to the finals for a 10th time. That's more than Michael Jordan.
I'll be on my couch watching the game tonight. I cannot wait, trying to do some homework that's due by midnight, but that's besides the point.
Sports are on. Don't worry about that.
No, don't worry. If any of my professors are hearing this right now, I'm sorry. No, I'm kidding. But I'm very excited for these games. Thank you all for tuning in to episode 5. Myself, Kayla Santiago, and Austin Jones. We will catch you next time. Make sure to stay tuned. And once again, subscribe to our YouTube channel.